दीवाने तेरे, तू भी पागल बनकर आना। वो तुम्हें भीगना अच्छा लगता है, मुझे भीगती हुई तुम।
तो फिर बारिश के हर मौसम में मेरे साथ ही रहना तुम।
के देख मोहब्बत मेरी, खुदा भी वो हैरान है।
हो गई जो आज मुकम्मल देखो ख्वाहिश में
तुमको बारिश पसंद है, मुझको बारिश में तुम।
तुमको बारिश पसंद है, मुझको बारिश में तुम।
मैं चला तेरी तरफ, तू चले और कहीं। मैं चला तेरी तरफ, तू चले और कहीं। मैं मुड़ा तेरी तरफ, तू मुड़े और कहीं।
तुझे ऐसा लगता है हाथ तेरा छड़ गई, तेरी गलत फहमी है, मैं तो कहीं मुड़ गई। तेरी गलत फहमी में मैं कहीं किना रही।
मैं बढ़ा तेरी तरफ, तू बड़े और कहीं। मैं चला तेरी तरफ, तू चले और कहीं।
तकदीर हवा में तेनू जी मेरा करता है। एक दो कदम तेरे बिन आगे नहीं बढ़ता है, आगे नहीं बढ़ता है, जी नहीं करता है।
आगे बढ़ के क्यों नहीं मेरा हाथ थाम लेती है। साथ तेरा मैं देता क्यों साथ नहीं देती है। मैं तो पगला था कुछ समझ नहीं पाता। मेरी राह तेरी तरफ, तेरी राह और कहीं। मेरी राह तेरी तरफ, तेरी राह।
you are. Join with me on Radio Jagriti 102.7 FM for the weekend program Salona. Salona brings to you a wonderful selection of music ranging from religious, folk, golden classics and Bollywood hits to keep your company as you enjoy your weekend and prepare for the week ahead. Join me on Radio Jagriti 102.7 FM every Saturday and Sunday from 9 p.m. and Mondays from 10 p.m. till 12 midnight for your cup of Salona, a musical experience to satiate your musical thirst and desires.
I am Ram Naresh Dwarika, inviting you to the program Addiction and Recovery, where we discuss issues relating to alcoholism and drug addiction. Be you an active user or in recovery? Tune in every Thursday at 9 a.m. This is an interactive program and you can call 663-1027 or 663-2335 where we can interact. Join me, Ram Naresh Dwarika, for the program Addiction and Recovery.
danger. This wasn't just about the 4 divers, Trinidad and Tobago. It was about every father, son, brother, husband who steps out the door to earn a living, about the trust we place in companies, in employers to keep employees safe, to keep all of us safe. This was about the sanctity of human life. Today, we delve into the abyss of the Paria tragedy. We will dissect the failures, the missed steps, the decisions that led to this unthinkable loss. I must say, we won't shy away from the uncomfortable truths, the systemic cracks that allowed this tragedy to occur. We will hold the powerful accountable, demand transparency, and fight for justice for these divers against the relevant authorities. Understanding the Paria tragedy isn't just about mourning the past. It is about ensuring a safer future where no family ever has to endure such a devastating loss. It is about honoring the fallen by making sure their sacrifice wasn't in vain. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, before we go further into today's program, as is customary, we will have our Mahasabha theme song, following which we will quickly recap the events of what is the worst industrial accident in our nation's history. We go to our theme song. Thank you to the technical team for that beautiful rendition of our Mahasaba's theme song. Ladies and gentlemen, as we play that theme song every week and on every edition, this program, of course, is one in which the Sanatan Dharma Mahasaba's executive presents. So I welcome all of you yet again to this edition. I want to, of course, go quickly to my guest today on the program. I want to let you know that this is an individual who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He's a senior advocate attorney at law. He is very much respected, very well respected in what we would call as attorneys at law, the criminal courts, the criminal arena. He's a one of the fiercest cross-examiners that you will ever come across. If your life is on the line and you have to defend your innocence, I would call this man at any hour, right? Any hour of the day, any day of the week, I would call him first. What I would tell you is that his tenacious pursuit of justice was recently observed and witnessed by all and sundry in the Paria Commission of Inquiry. And I refer to, of course, none other than the impeccable Mr. Prakash Ramada. So I want the technical team to go to the wide screen. Mr. Ramada, thank you very much for coming on the program. Welcome to Jagadan, The Awakening.
First of all, that was overly generous of you. And thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be once again here. The last time I was here, I actually did a program with our beloved Sat. And it's really a privilege to return here in the best of hands. And I'm most grateful to you.
And Mr. Ramada, it is of course my pleasure, and I deem it a privilege and also a blessing that you have returned to the studio, because the matter at hand is a very serious one that goes to the interest, the welfare of not just persons who you may be directly representing, but to the interest of the welfare and safety of the rest of the country. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to speak or embark upon our discussions on the Paria tragedy. And Mr. Ramada, with your permission, I would like to start with just a little video that recaps some of the events, so that for the benefit of our viewing and listening audience, that we
Absolutely.
can see. Yes, so technical team, if we go to that video. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just to recap events relating to the Paria tragedy, which we all are aware of. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we have seen some photos as we try to recap the events surrounding the tragic deaths of these 4 divers. Fortunately or unfortunately, according to the diver himself, Christopher Budram, he remained alive. He was fortunate to find, some recourse within that murky depth of water, and he was able to survive. Mr. Ramadan, of course, you have seen the timeline. You represent Mr. Faisal Kurban and Yusuf Henry, the families of those 2 divers.
He's one of
divers.
Yusuf's daughters.
And one of... based on your interaction, I don't expect that in the interest of, respecting their privacy, but certainly, how would you describe their ability to cope with what has happened, and what is their present state of affair in terms of their, continuing with their own lives?
Well, let me congratulate your opening. Let me also add to it by saying that this case to me, and I say case, I mean the entire episode, what happened on that fateful 25th until today, is really a test of the conscience of this nation. To the extent that you had persons who had authority and responsibility and treated those lives as if they were disposable, dispensable. And up till today, the state, and PARIA being a state entity, has taken no responsibility whatsoever. We had filed pre-action protocol letters and they have refused to accept liability. The Prime Minister has gone into the Parliament and has indicated that he will not instruct, but allow the very board that is responsible for the state of affairs to make determinations. I have given an instruction to my colleagues to prepare a letter directly to the to the board of PARIA and LMCS, asking for ex ratio payment. As you well know, they may not even accept liability, but we reserve our rights on that.
Yes.
Because we do not wish to litigate. Because every single day, and I'm coming back to the question you posed, every single day that there's less finality in the matter is an outrageous pain into the heart and the beings of every member of the families who remain, their friends, their family, and in fact the nation. So the quicker this matter is resolved as best as we could never bring back those lives. Yes. But the least we should do is to accept liability and responsibility. PARIA has not done that. And to make things better in terms of the day-to-day expenses, as we all know how difficult life is to the working man in this country. Transport, education, food, you name it. Yes. And these families were left without their breadwinners for 2 years almost.
Yes.
And then the almost, what shall I say, obscenity of the legal fees. Probably well spent, yes. But where is the proportionality here? Where's the balance? $8 million in legal fees for PARIA alone.
Yes.
What many do not know. There's a second team working for PARIA in relation to the civil matters. So we have not heard, I do not know if that cumulative number includes any of that, but I don't believe it does. And there we continue to allow these families to not have the grace of a government, of a board, to say, look, this is, we could speak all the language and say how atrocious and horrible it was. But what do you do?
Yes.
When you have the responsibility to do? So it is very, very difficult. I have to interface with these members. And, in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's something I want to move forward with. And probably if we litigate this case, it will help a whole lot. You know, as a very able practicing lawyer and former judge of the industrial court, the awards granted by the courts for personal injuries is an abomination.
Yes.
Right? The numbers are so low, you can lose a limb and get a couple 100,000. But if somebody says that you defame their name, you could get close to $1 million.
Yes, correct.
The damage done to a human being is not just the physical body, but it's the mind, the spirit, the soul, the conscience, the feelings, the emotions. And some of those injuries never go away. And these families are scarred, and it could lead to all sorts of mental illnesses and depressions and so. And we do not really cater for these things. You might well recall the chairman read Aaliyah's letter, which I had difficulty reading that to the commission, but she had asked me to do so. And he referenced that letter, a child's voice, about her daddy gone, and that she had prayed that he would be rescued. But her prayers fell on deaf ears for those who do not have goodness and conscience in their heart. And her daddy is gone. I'm just giving one example.
Yes.
Every single day for her is terrible. She's going through, she has SEA and, you know, all of those difficulties. She has a very supportive family, though, and I'm grateful for that. But nothing can bring back her daddy. In relation to the Kurbans, the man's apple of his eye, his only daughter, they had scraped together and had sent her off to university in Canada. You know how expensive that is.
Yes.
And every semester they have to be scrambling, and through the goodwill of, I'm not at liberty to disclose here now, they've been able to keep her there. Many of us have, you know, have had to help in that process. You think they should be going through that, where the basic issues and needs are not met, and there's a callousness, and it is not just in this case. Do you know, when I made my closing at the commission, I referenced another situation where a young man died, and it was very close to me because he was the brother of a former secretary of mine who had called me when this thing happened. And she had indicated to me that he died from what day, not died, the accident occurred around 3 a.m. She got there at 6. He was still in the machine, groaning. And you ask yourself, what steps were taken to try to save him? Now, having spoken these things, you know what happened? I got a pre-action protocol threatening to sue me. And I said, no problem, bring it. And of course, I have the best of friends and the best in the profession. I am not without support.
Yes.
And we issued a letter in response asking for certain information. Eager, bring your case against me.
Yes.
And so closing on a year now, we've not heard back from them. But the arrogance to believe that we can't speak about things when we see it, and to challenge it when we must.
Yes.
So that is where we are. It's terrible what has happened. What is even worse is the conduct of those who have responsibility who led to these deaths, and their conduct since in not helping these families.
I am grateful to you because I know this is a matter which there may be very blurred lines between client-attorney relationship.
Yes.
Having regard to the circumstances involved. You would obviously become emotionally involved. And to speak about it from just strictly an attorney at law perspective is not going to be possible with these kinds of circumstances. So I'm grateful to you for sharing that.
Yes.
I want to go to a newspaper report which cites of course, the report itself from the Commission of Inquiry, which dealt with the treatment of the families. And they said that the report also took note of how the families were treated during the ordeal by Paria. And this is a quotation. In the view of the Commission, the way in which the families were treated were insensitive and uncivilized. And it goes further. The failure to keep them informed, especially in the first 12 to 24 hours, was shocking, as was their failure to look after them. They should have been provided with basic shelter, toilet facilities, and water and food ought to have been provided by Paria to comfortably accommodate them. So it is as though from the very inception, when Paria realized that this unfortunate accident had occurred, they immediately went into a mode of, as you say, callousness.
Yes.
One of ill treatment towards the family.
Yeah.
Not an iota of compassion, no sensitivity to what people may be going through. And I recall that they had to be standing outside the compound, probably looking on at vehicles passing from time to time, wondering whether somebody is going to volunteer information to them about what is taking place next.
Well, you made a significant point about lawyers and their professional line, and then the emotions that we all have as human beings, and compassionate lawyers are necessary. Put that aside for a moment. You get a message. A loved one is now involved in a horrible accident. You do not know the details. You do know they're out in the open waters or on some platform or whatever. None of which could be. No accident is good when circumstances like that. It is far worse.
Yes.
You know, because these are divers. So any accident may result in they not having sufficient oxygen. So there's a timeline issue of minutes, at most hours. You race down there and you wait at the gate because security doesn't let you in. What, you have no rights? Because they are employed and because our property belongs to a certain entity, you have forsaken all your rights and concerns about your loved one. You do not know what is happening, as you rightly point out, because this has been related to me. Every vehicle that passed by, they're looking in, oh God, please, what you know, anything,
Yes.
tell us now. And nobody is able to give them any proper information, and in fact, in some cases, we give them bad information. Hope against hope, pray against prayer, that they will come out alive. And as the minutes went by, they know deep inside this thing is getting worse and worse. The darkness has now descended upon them. No one in authority comes to them to help them and say, come on inside, this is what has happened, this is what we're doing. And you know, had they even had the courtesy to do that, the families would have probably said, well, why don't you do so and so? Somebody with an idea. We're not talking about what is on site at the birth where this accident occurred. The same carelessness. There's a woman they sent there as their point person who I have been told by those who knew her and had responded in many other ways to her. But on that evening, it was as if she didn't want to hear a word from Michael Kurban, who had gone into the pipe to save his father and his colleagues, his brothers, because it is a very close relationship that they had.
Yes.
He had gone in, and he had come back out for one reason and one reason only, to get an extra length of hose, air, so that he could go further. He went in, it was doable. They knew this, and they prevented him from returning with that extra length of hose, so he could have saved lives that were still there. You can imagine the horror of that alone, the scar, the emotional scar on he and his other brother, who's around, and you feel so helpless. And on what basis? For some authority that remains on shore and never had the wherewithal to come on site to see what is really happening. You leave a point person who is clearly giving you bad information, because at the end of the day, if there was any doubt that the men may have perished at the time of the incident, I don't really call it an accident, as I call it the incident, because there's more.
Yes.
She failed. And then when our survivor came out, they knew full well that men were alive. And they were hearing banging on the pipes. Simple thing. Did they even attempt to send in a air hose to give them oxygen? Nothing like that. They decided to wait for cameras and to make sure that everything was so safe that any endeavor to save, they were looking more about safety and security for those who were willing and able to go in rather than to try and save lives. Look, there was a simple equation. You knew oxygen was a primary need. You knew well that at most it'll be minutes or hours, and you allowed that time to go. And as the time went on, there was certain death, and you balance that with what you want, certain safety and security for persons. There were professional divers who came, having heard about this. They didn't know the men in the pipe.
Yes.
They came. They're heroes here in this country, and I love this country for that. And they said, we can do this. They were willing, able, and by which time? I want to congratulate so many who brought all equipment that was necessary and was there. So you had the equipment, you had the manpower, you had the expertise, but you had an authority that says, no, you cannot. And they allowed these men to perish. So the accident, first of all, was one. And when the chairman said, this was no accident, this was no act of God, that's a very powerful statement. Because the accident having occurred didn't mean that they must have died. Sorry to say this, but as a lawyer, you know, we've been told that sometimes it is cheaper to bury a victim than to save him in a broken way that you have to maintain for the rest of his life. Cheaper. So I don't know. But these are the considerations that many have come to me with. Is that what they were thinking? I don't know. But they had every reason to do what they could have. It was so easy to do. when Christopher came out, he said, right behind me. They're right behind me. He told Michael, go get your father. They're right behind me.
Yes.
What more do you need? Proof of life. And then, I don't know how many would ever forget the audio. And he promised to go back to get them.
Yes.
So I understand the survivor syndrome. He feels guilty. He called me the other day to thank us for what we do and so. And I told him, no, Christopher, we thank you. Had you not come out, the story would have been very different.
Yes.
Very, very different.
Yes.
So there we are at that point in time. So take it from there.
And ladies and gentlemen, I want to commend Mr. Ramada because, you know, he is articulating and crystallizing the pertinent facts which some of us, including myself, may have missed or may not recall at the point in time. Because if I remember correctly, this incident occurred on a Friday afternoon.
Friday evening, yes.
And into Friday evening, word started to spread through the news and otherwise, social media and what have you, that this was the fate at that point in time, that these divers found themselves in difficulty. One questioned whether or not, well, why is it we can't do something? It was as though nothing was being done. We were not hearing, whether through the government, whether through Paria board, and I'm not being political now when I make this statement, the population agrees with these sentiments. We as a population, we were not hearing what we wanted to hear, namely that there is a mission to rescue. There was nothing along the lines of, look, we have a mission to rescue these gentlemen, right? Somebody standing up and doing a chart and saying this is where we are at this point in time, and this is what we're proposing. Not a picture of men looking on in a drawing room at some experts on a whiteboard trying to chart the way forward. We saw nothing like that. In fact, we saw quite the opposite. And I recall that when we heard that divers were there, as lawyers, we wondered, well, okay, we could weigh as lawyers, this is as lawyers, not as lay people. As lawyers, we may be prepared to weigh at that point in time the risk involved in sending persons there versus what may be, what would have already happened to those divers. And if you have, as you say, you have these good Samaritans coming forward, yes, and they are willing to dive, they are expert divers, they have their credentials and they're willing to, one wondered, why wouldn't you allow them? I mean, in this day and age, you can prepare the relevant indemnities.
Absolutely.
And say, look, you are going in there at your own risk. And these persons were prepared. Christopher Budram emerged saying, hey, go back, your father was right behind me. So, you know, these are serious things. But to continue this, I want to show at this time, I don't know if the technical team may be able to put up something. These are clips of an article I had done. Let us just show this because I want to just touch on something Mr. Ramada had spoken about earlier. And I just put this not to showcase myself, but the 1 year anniversary, Mr. Ramada. This was an article that I had written. And I want to support Mr. Ramada's suggestion that can you really compensate these families for the loss that they have suffered? Not just the loss of life of the loved one, but their own loss is emotional. It is something, it's trauma. The pain, the pain that they continue to experience on a daily basis. And Mr. Ramada is right. I mean, we both practice, and I suppose me more so in the civil arena, but we both have encountered where we have had to represent persons who would have suffered industrial accidents.
Yes.
And what you have is you have an interplay. The laws exist. You have the Supreme Court of Judicature Act. We can go to another, one of the other picks. And we will hold this here because I want to come back to this, Mr. Ramada, this particular one. But there you have an interplay of the fatal accidents legislation,
yes,
and the Supreme Court of Judicature Act. And when you take that and you interplay and you have cases like Harris and Impress and all of these things, the families go through an ordeal which they never get compensated for. That is number one, the process. And then when you are really trying to now compensate people for the actual injury, the pain, the loss of amenities, pain, loss of suffering and loss of amenities, you never get compensated properly. Our Privy Council has said
Yes.
that in our jurisdiction we continue to apply an inexact science when we want to, by just simply taking like cases. As you say, you could lose a limb,
Yeah.
and you probably get a $20,000 if you're fortunate, and loss of life, the loss of expectation of life, to my recall, I think it is somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000.
It is a
now.
joke. We did a case where this mother was taken.
Let's come back to Mr. Ramadan. We'll
Yeah.
go back to that clip.
We did a case recently, and in fact, I've converted into almost 100% civil now. Because of COVID, the courts were closed, and I'm almost exclusively into the civil arena. And the passion that we have for people is better served by ensuring that we could give them the comfort they need, that there are people who are competent, able, and willing to help them in the face of enormous power. This woman went into Mount Hope and died because somebody disconnected her oxygen. The lawyers that they were working with before were given an offer of loss of expectation of $25,000.
Yes.
They came to us and we told them, are you all crazy?
So our law, ladies and gentlemen,
25,000, loss of life.
loss of life, the value that our law puts to loss of life, loss of expectation of life, is $25,000.
So we took that and we were able to get a very substantial settlement for them, quietly, of course, because the pain that they have felt. But then, you see, pain is one thing from the loss, but when you get insults like that, who am I? Do I exist? Have I any right in this world? When I lost my beloved mom or dad, and you tell me 25,000 recognizes sufficiently my loss?
Yes.
It's not about money as much, but it's about respect equally. Look, we did a case recently too. This young man for a large supermarket chain lost his fingers. And he didn't know, uneducated as he was, and they made him sign for full and final satisfaction for $6,000. When he came to us, we were 1 week away from the 4-year limitation, and we went after them, and we were able to equally get a substantial award. So you have to be very careful for these artificial numbers that are put out there. And for lawyers who believe that it's written and expected, that is what you accept, no. We have to change that. And when I made earlier the comment that maybe if we want to litigate this one, let's see. In the interim, of course, we'll have to make alternative arrangements for the well-being and upkeep of these families. So that people better be careful what they ask for.
Yes.
Because you are so correct, the Privy Council has repeatedly said that our awards are basically out of sync with reality.
Yes.
And when in America, and a lot of people, and I'm sure with you, in your practice with Kyle and so, when they come and they watch TV and they see what happens in America, they would expect that the awards will be very substantial. They are not here.
Yes.
And we have to change that mindset. The damage alone and the loss is not just the physicality, but it's, those who remain, their lives are ruined. And that is why American awards reflect those things. And also to send a message for all those who have resources, responsibility, and authority and breach it, that is a price to pay. So we need to work on that. And if this is that case, so be it. Because, look, every day there are accidents. Some of them are fatal, and it's horrible grief. This is not just that. Let me tell you what the families feel. And I can see it and expect it, and when I finish, you may or may not agree. The accident occurred. They could have been saved. The saving of those lives was prevented. What does that mean? You had the authority, the power, and I keep saying that, authority and power, because in this country we see it being used not as a tool to help, but as a weapon to oppress.
Yes.
When that power and authority says you cannot do this, and you allow them to die, there's a death sentence they put on them. Avoidable death for no reason. And what is also unacceptable, unbelievable, because I cross-examined a year ago the incident command team. Each of them still on the job 1 year after the incident.
Yes.
And I understand, I do not know, I can't believe if this could be true, that is still there. And you might recall, there was one of them, a Mr. Way, I do not know where to get him, but he, under cross-examination, has said in the face of 4 deaths and this horrific tragedy. And so, how do you rate yourselves? He says, excellent.
Excellent. I remember that, yes.
Excellent. And they remain on the job.
Well, I wanted not to get overly technical, but I want to just let our audience know that Mr. Ramada is alluding to our state of law and challenging the status quo, prepared to challenge the status quo, because unlike America and other jurisdictions where you get punitive damages, meaning that persons will get damages based on the fact that you also want to punish the wrongdoer, in our jurisdiction, our damages are assessed on a compensatory manner, not punitive, it is compensatory. So in other words, they try their best to put you in a position you would have been in had you not suffered from the particular incident.
Yes.
We get aggravated, we get exemplary damages. No doubt you will be pushing the limits with those if needs be. But ladies and gentlemen, these families will never, ever get proper compensation. I want to go back to the last clip that was up on the screen to make a point with Mr. Ramada. This is, of course, I am grateful to whichever newspaper that carried this article of mine. In our society, which has at the heart of its constitution the right of an individual to life, liberty, and security of the person, we have professional internet trolls offensively antagonizing bereaved family members, suggesting that they're seeking to extort monies out of this tragedy. And I thought somebody had to say this, because during the course of, one may recall that we saw video footage somehow miraculously released into the public domain. And there were certain people all over social media trying to defend Paria, which is your right if you choose to, but to suggest that the families were now seeing this as some kind of windfall and the hurt and pain that they're going through, we had to put it out squarely that this is really offensive. For anyone in our society to suggest that amidst the pain that people are using this as some kind of windfall to get damages is really something that strikes to me at the core of our conscience. Whether it be individual or collective conscience, you are on the wrong side of morality, if that is what you're suggesting. And so that is why I wanted to show that, because it means that you have persons in the society are prepared to turn, either to turn a blind eye, to look in the opposite direction, as the case may be, because they are of the view that we need to protect wrongdoers, and something has to be fundamentally wrong in our society if that is what we are prepared to do, because it may be political ambitions, it could be political affiliations, it could be that you know something that the rest of us don't know. But what everyone knows is that this was a tragedy which was brought about as a result of continuing wrongdoing on the part of authorities.
Well, it is stunning that anybody could come to that conclusion. And I have learned that if that is your assessment, if this is honest and you believe this, that says who you are.
Yes.
It doesn't say who the families are. That is how you believe. If you were put in a circumstance where your loved one died, hey, I could make some real money out of this. If that is what you're saying about them, that is how you believe. And I don't believe those are authentic statements. I think they were perpetrated as a part of a program. I was stunned when I went to PriceSmart and this elderly gentleman came. He said, you Ramada, why are you shouting about the people ending, boy? Elderly gentleman, I, of course, very respectful to him. I said, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, man, you shouting about the people and you can't, I said, no, I was cross-examining them. And then, of course, I took a few moments to explain to him what had happened. He did not even know what had truly occurred. And when he heard the facts, he was so upset in the opposite direction.
Yes.
So there was a propaganda movement taking place. I had no idea because I was so literally submerged,
Yes.
inundated in what I was doing, that there was that mischievous element out there that perpetrated a different storyline. None of these family members, I assure you, have raised the issue about money as a compensation. We use that word, it's almost incomprehensible. There's no compensation, This is an assistance to allow you to live, to continue on your basics. Yes. It is also a mark of respect to give a decent sum so that children of these families never have to worry about their future because their daddy has been taken from them.
Yes,
and
correct.
it is also a mark of respect of the society about the standards we wish to keep. Now, I put out a figure of $5 million. a minimum foundational number as an award that is not, in these times, some cars are like $5 million, right? I'm talking about the high-end ones, very high-end ones. Some cars on average is like, a Prado is $1 million. I'm just giving you.
Yes.
So when we think 5 million is plenty money, it is really not in the circumstances of this. Because we need as a people, citizens, patriots, to recognize that this cannot be a stain on the character of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And if we put an award that is, not overly large, but substantial enough to send a message, that will mark some way of our cumulative regret of what has happened, because that money comes from each and every one of us here. So this foolishness about paying millions of dollars to lawyers and they want to litigate right up to Privy Council,
Yes.
because you know this, that where you have unlimited resources, taxpayers' dollars to carry at the end of the day, is a state-owned company. And that, of course, lawyers may advise that they could fight this thing and I always reference a case that Mr. Larry Lawler, Senior Counsel, did, where WASA caused a house to fall.
Yes.
Sahadat, the authority.
Yes.
There was no case that WASA had, and Larry beat them to a pulp in the High Court. They appealed this. Went to the court, the court kicked them out. But they went to the Privy Council, who did not even wish to hear them, and
Yes.
threw them out of court, at the end of which several years had passed. And I use this one, but this is like common everyday features of our judicial system. And we cannot afford, every single day I say, that we do not bring a closer sense of finality in this. Is an open wound on the families. And this is not about money. And I got to tell you now, right? The group of lawyers, and in fact, Kyle and they all had volunteered up front, and of course we're grateful for that. We are not taking a single cent out of this. Whatever shall come shall go directly to these families. Yes. And none of them have been parading before to say that, look, pay us, because they're in so much pain, but certainly they're entitled to compensation.
They are entitled, yes.
Entitled as a matter of law, and much less so now for decency. And our board continues to sit that oversaw what happened before until today. I'm not getting political. I don't know, many may have observed I've stayed away from the politics of this thing, because I am solely here as a lawyer, and I am intent, wherever it goes, however long it takes, to ensure that what is right and proper, because this is a resetting of what we see, and you know from your experience, what has been happening in a lot of state matters. They settle nothing for justice.
Yes.
They fight you down to the ground. I am doing a case, as one example, of a police officer who has a stroke. He's barely able to move. His wife had been the victim of an awful crime. She's paralyzed in bed. And he, having been retired, didn't get his pension, no gratuity or anything like that. And we filed a case as a constitutional matter. One court said, and the Court of Appeal agreed, that it should be a breach of contract, which is, we don't agree with that, but anyhow, we take it. And in that effort, state attorneys came after him for costs. For costs, when they haven't paid him a cent. So I'm showing you now, there's a kind of nastiness in the hands of, in the hands of those who hold power, to not relent and understand that they are there because of we. They exercise our authority that we gave to them at election time. This is not a political system. This is how the state works. The people are the power. But no,
yes.
When they go into office, they believe that they could do what they want. Again, I mean, you go and you speak to the average Trinidadian and you find out what they believe the justice of this case requires. And they will tell you. People, I can't go anywhere without people bombarding questions, and I'm happy to be able to tell them that we are not going to relent on these matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, technical team, we do have another clip from that same article. If we can throw it up on the screen. Mr. Ramada mentioned propaganda, and I think this will take us to our next point on our discussion. I don't know if we can blow this up in any way at all, if we can enlarge this on the screen. But essentially, this speaks to the purpose of the commission or any commission of inquiry. And when you establish a commission of inquiry, so this is the first anniversary of the deaths of that is the preliminary paragraph. Let's just go down a little bit. Justice Peter Corey wrote in Phillips and Nova Scotia Commission of Inquiry into the Westray mine tragedy. And this is what he had to say. One of the primary functions of public inquiries is fact-finding. They are often convened in the wake of public shock, horror, disillusionment, or skepticism in order to uncover the truth. Inquiries are like the judiciary, independent. Unlike the judiciary, they are often endowed with wide-ranging investigative powers. In following their mandates, commissions of inquiries are ideally free from partisan loyalties and better able than Parliament or the legislatures to take a long-term view of the problem presented. Cynics decry public inquiries as a means used by the government to postpone acting in circumstances which often call for speedy action. And I remember bolding this. Whether the cynics are entitled in our local culture to think this, right? That it is really an inquiry, it is meant as a mechanism or a vehicle that they can take their time in. You mentioned high-end vehicles a while ago, in postponing acting in circumstances which is actually calling for speedy action. Traditionally, local commissions of inquiry have been criticized for taking too long, costing too much, and for lacking coercive power to punish and to ensure implementation of recommendations. And this is where I want to take the discussion now, Mr. Ramada. But before I ask you to respond, we do have one video that I want to show, which is I think, Commissioner Lynch himself speaking about the purpose of this commission of inquiry before we take the discussion further. Do we have that?
It is as well to remember how this commission of inquiry came about. It was unequivocally as a result of public pressure, the desire for you, the public, to have a real attempt at truth, to find out what happened, why it happened, why was so little done to rescue them, and how we can stop this ever happening again.
So we have heard it from Commissioner Lynch himself. What was the intent behind this commission of inquiry? And knowing generally the law, the principles, the philosophy of commissions of inquiry, are you satisfied with the conduct? We are not going into judicial review principles here, but I just mean in terms of the length of time, generally speaking, in terms of the length of time, are you satisfied that we now have something with which we can act upon?
Well, let me just say I could understand the cynicism of the population in relation to commissions of inquiry. We've had many in the past. You were too young probably to remember. There were deaths at St. Anne's. I think 13 persons died as a result of contaminated eggnog. There was a commission of inquiry into that. Nothing came of that. We've had multiple commissions of inquiry into the healthcare system, into the legal system, but we've had some that have been quite useful actually. This commission of inquiry, the moment I announced Ramesh Lawrence Maraj as legal counsel to the commission, I said this is serious business.
Yes.
Because if you know him and you work with him, he doesn't allow any stone to be unturned. And when I had my first exposure to Chairman Lynch, he and I had a little bit of altercation. We were seeing that everybody getting, they're getting senior counsel and so to appear. And these families, we have costs too.
Yes.
We made an application to see if the state will assist the families for legal representation. We were told to go to legal aid. I said, what the hell with it? We don't need that. We never did. We grew from a culture of pro bono work, helping those who need it when they need it, so that they wouldn't lose their rights and be undefended, unprotected, with these heavy resources of the state and they without. We went ahead. But it turned out that this man, very early on I realized he means business. And the commission itself, I never imagined before it had sat itself, that it would have manifested such clarity, such purpose, such sincerity. And the report now bears all. This is the classic best case for a commission of inquiry that I've seen.
Yes.
It took time, yes, but a lot of people do not appreciate that there will be many forces that would have tried to kill this thing so that it should never see the light of day.
Correct.
And a lot of the delays, I understand, was as a result of they being very careful to ensure that all those who might be implicated do not bring judicial review and other legal matters and stop the publication of this thing. And it did manifestly well because the resources that would have come against them, had they not taken the time and did it right, that this thing could have been squashed and hopelessly put into the court system, and we would never have heard what their findings were. It is now out, and in fact, we had cause when the chairman presented to Excellency, people were concerned that it could be sanitized and delayed. I knew it couldn't have been. Not with the personalities of the commission, Mr. Wilson and the chairman, of course, Ramesh and his team. Magnificent job. And then, no God-fearing government could have ever hoped to have put this on a shelf and leave it. But we did write to the Prime Minister, to the Cabinet, asking for a copy before it was put into the Parliament.
Yes.
On the Monday, it was put into the Parliament on the Friday. And it is now open. And, no surprise to me, the recommendation for corporate manslaughter is a first time in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm unaware, maybe there are cases, but I am not aware of that recommendation. I thought they fell a little bit short in saying that there was not sufficient for personal criminal liability. There is more, in my view, more than sufficient evidence upon which the DPP, who has the ultimate discretion to lay personal charges against certain individuals there. This is a situation, and I use the example. Paria took upon itself that they were landlords, and therefore they had authority over the property. Therefore, they believed that they could tell people what they should and should not do and to prevent the rescue. Now, in any emergency in this country, the two authorities you call, fire and police.
Yes.
No police in this at all.
At any time.
At any time.
They didn't preserve the site even after the accident.
So, they did turn up when the bodies were found to try and prevent the people from, for the families to actually see the bodies, right? And I had to, Minister Young, I want to tell you, he was quite cooperative. And he had instructed that the families be permitted. And somebody within the power structure prevented the families from even seeing, they just find these bodies and, they want to see for the first time. Because they can't believe, when these tragedies occur, you hope against hope. That is not true. And until you actually see, you can't believe that it has happened. And they were prevented. I've just given you that. But, having said that, I give the example. You're the owner of a property, you're bringing a contractor, and I repeat this because it's so simple, to do some work on your windows. Your place is well fenced, well barricaded. You allow the contractor and his assistant in. In the process, they fall, the window pane falls, they're cut, they're bleeding out on the ground. And you're the landlord, and you tell people who are right outside who want to come and save them, you cannot come in here because there's broken glass, you're going to get cut. And you allow them to bleed out. You telling me that's not criminal? It's as simple as that. Because the law provides that you have a duty of care. Now, if you are just a spectator and you watching them bleeding out, you're under no duty to assist.
To assist, yes.
But when you have a duty of care, and you yourself do not assist, and you prevent them from being, and they perish, that is involuntary manslaughter in the least. That carries, heavy jail term. Now, I have never in my entire life and in my career ever recommended anybody be prosecuted. I'm a defense to the core. This case, I had to fight and battle my conscience, and I spoke to many people, and the immediate and instinctive response, some good and decent people, they had to be charged. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? There's a reason for the criminal law. It is to set an example for those so that they will not think that they could do what they want, abuse their power, and walk away willy-nilly, scot-free, without any further possibility of anything personally occurring to them. And if there is anything, government money will pay it. Government money, or taxpaying dollars. So I hope the DPP will look at it, get the police involved to do proper investigations, obtain statements. They do not need to use the statements that were obtained during the Commission of Inquiry, do the proper protocols. You know, suspects given the right to say they wish to remain silent. All that, but there is sufficient evidence that is available. Now, that brings me to another point. Who gave Paria that authority that day? And for the Coast Guard, because we were looking to see whether we could go after the Coast Guard, but strictly speaking, I think they believed in error that they were duty-bound to take the instruction, but instruction from whom? Somebody at Paria, the general manager, commander of the incident command team. Do you know, and I'm not being political, but we had put in place something called the National Operating Center, that any emergency we had, that all the resources of the state will be alerted, and they knew. For instance, if you had a tragic fire somewhere, not just the fire, the police, our helicopter services, the ambulance services will be alerted and put in place. If there was a kidnapping in a certain area, they will lock down the area and you have your helicopter. You know, these are the things, coordinated effort. They were like headless chicken at best, and that is a charitable interpretation of how they acted. Charitable interpretation that they did not know what to do. They knew what they could have done. These are persons who held specialized posts, incident command team, incident commander, and they allowed this to have occurred. What's their purpose? And you telling me, so there are twofold issues here. One, Paria itself, and two, as incident commander, incident command team, you had a higher level of responsibility, and therefore your breach of that must have consequence.
I want to, at this point in time, of course, adopt and endorse, to use our language that we like to draft with as lawyers, your sentiments in terms of the special counsel to the commission. Mr. Ramadan and myself are brothers in law because we have trained to a large extent under Mr. Ramesh Maraj.
Absolutely.
And if you know Mr. Ramesh Lawrence Maraj, he always insists on getting to the justice of the case that you're involved in. So as lawyers, we have a duty to defend our clients, but there's an insistence to get to the justice of the case. And then from there, you start piloting your way, you know, advising the clients, etc. I am certain, and I have full trust and confidence, and I think I can dare say the majority of the population would have trust in the assistance that was rendered to Commissioner Lynch and the guidance that they, as Mr. Maraj's counsel would have, legal counsel to the commission would have rendered. And his team, of course, I know there was Mr. Ronnie B. Sessa, Ms. Vijaya Maraj, Ms. Badal. Those are the persons who I remember being immediately with him involved in the matter. So I want to say that, yes, we have the trust and confidence. This report having been laid, my concern, I wouldn't share any concerns with respect to the costs at this time. I do appreciate that when you see, as you have mentioned, Paria, you're talking about Paria attorneys getting $8 million. I am not going to just simply dissect it and simpliciter say, well, they are not entitled to $8 million in fees. What really is telling, and it is somewhat absurd, it irks your conscience, is to know that Paria has already put out this sum of money. You have also made mention of civil lawyers as well, or lawyers working on the civil side,
another team,
and which may now have an additional cost. We don't know, but it may be an additional cost to that being $8 million. And here it is, you have diverse families who have not gotten an ex gratia payment to treat with, well, I don't know, funeral expenses.
Absolutely.
To treat with anything in the event that you know that one of them has a dependent who is in immediate need of a surgical procedure or schooling or whatever.
Basics,
it may be.
man, basic.
Basics. So,
groceries. I know, listen, forgive me, but I know because I've been told.
Yes.
Right? Groceries, vehicle, they had to pay insurance, gas, electricity, telephone, every single thing that we as citizens have to pay for, they have to pay for, and the breadwinner is dead. And you don't help in this? Yeah? To put away a child from university. This man's wish was for this child to be graduated from a foreign university. Every semester, They had to be scampering around to raise money. And she lives in a fare that she pulled away before she's complete. How could we accept that?
Well, I want to say that just so that the listening and viewing audience understands, when we say ex gratia, Mr. Ramada is making it clear that no one was asking or has been asking Paria to admit liability. That ex gratia means you pay something without admitting liability, but you seek within your own conscience that this is a deserving case.
Absolutely.
And therefore you should assist whilst matters run its course. Well, we leave that there for now, but I want to say that in terms of you indicating, Mr. Ramada, that you have a situation where the commissioner would not have necessarily recommended strong criminal charges to particular individuals. But certainly the Commission of Inquiry is making it clear that it should go to the DPP. I seek some refuge in that and solace. You know, I am consoled to some extent that maybe they thought, look, it is not within our remit to do that. And so they not that they played it safe, but it was a matter of being sound in law. That, look, we have seen enough here that warrants consideration by those who are mandated under the Constitution to determine whether charges should be laid. And I want to treat with that issue, Mr. Ramada.
Yes.
That you mentioned willy-nilly. The Prime Minister spoke about we're not going to pay out monies willy-nilly and all of these things. We'll get to him, not that we are doing anything political per se, but this is a political issue. It is in the political domain. Unfortunately, it is overridden with politics. If it is you have such strong findings that have been made against the Paria board, they have not determined, it is correct that they have not determined that these people are guilty. They can't. No. They can't determine whether they are in breach of criminal law and therefore they should be charged and deem them guilty, right, at the outset. But they have found that there is sufficient actions of negligence that now warrants an investigation by the DPP. Isn't that something sufficient for the government to act? We are not doing politics. I am not wearing my political hat now. I assure the audience.
And I don't have one. So, yes.
But isn't it? What is your take on it? I am suggesting that there is due consideration to be given that where the Commission of Inquiry has found, I mean, there are innumerable circumstances detailed and findings made upon those factual details on which they have found that you have successive negligent actions on the part of the Paria board, which could amount to a criminal charge.
Look,
isn't that sufficient for the government to act with respect to the board?
Do we need to be told this? Let's be real. This is Paria, a state company. Men die on your property. You had an active role in preventing their rescue. You need a commission to tell you. But let us not underestimate the potency of a commission of inquiry. This is under the hand of the highest office holder of the nation, of this country, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Her Excellency the President. Pause. That commission, having been funded, having been given the assistance that is required, having gone through the process, having made a recommendation, are you just going to say it's willy-nilly to disregard that and leave it up to the board? Of course, you would leave it up to the board to do what is the proper and right thing, and we are writing them immediately.
Yes.
To ensure that nobody could say, well, nobody asked us. We are asking them. And we're going to give them a time frame within which to respond.
Please keep it very short.
Absolutely very short, because we shouldn't have to be waiting for them to pull a trigger. They should have made these decisions already. The moment long before the recommendations came out, they must have known. And I want to be fair to the general manager, and he said that they were trying to reach out to assist the families under cross-examination. But they were advised by lawyers to not do so. Do you understand that?
So this brings us, we stick a pin here. I want to continue this. I want to get your take on it, but we stick a pin here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we are in doubt as to whether or not there was a deliberate and calculated decision on the part of Paria board, whether acting on advice from lawyers or otherwise, that it would be far cheaper to let these men die as opposed to bringing them out alive, because at that point in time, being told of basic principles that they were sucked the delta P vacuum or whatever you call it, that they could have probably sustained major injuries.
Absolutely. Life-changing injuries.
Life, yes, with that suction, the force of the suction that they would have been sucked into the pipeline, that this is what could have happened. Was it? I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that this is my opinion.
Questions have been asked.
These are pertinent questions. You can't help but wonder whether they were advised and they took a calculated decision to shut access to the pipe. Nobody can rescue them because it would be cheaper to deal with a situation with these men being dead rather than taking them out with major injuries, potentially major injuries.
Well, you know, I could tell you, one of the largest awards, the matter is before the Court of Appeal, because Petrotrin appealed. It was Petrotrin at the time. We got a $5 million award for a young man who had been so badly hurt in a fall that his life changed. He couldn't play sport, he's in perpetual pain, he's mobile sometimes and then so, but we got a $5 million award for him. Of course they appealed, but the point being that it is the consideration and it's sometimes important to highlight these things. It's about how much you earn, how old you are. There's a formula that you know better than I, that they use, the courts use to work out what is fair, what is reasonable, what is expected. And you have pecuniary damages and you have general damages for pain and suffering and so.
Yes.
And a live person who is so badly injured is very expensive.
Yes.
And then, you know, remember we spoke about the loss of life, $25,000. You understand? And then they give you some other little things, you know, pain and suffering
Under
for
the
the
Fatal
family.
Accidents Act.
Right, so it adds up to next to nothing. And obscenity in my mind. And we need to fix that moving forward. So people have asked me, and I have commented on that in the commission. Was that a consideration of the board? I don't know. Those who were there at that time, maybe they genuinely believe that the men were already dead. And I think there was a notification at 4:30, basically that any hope
but how
was lost.
could you? One of them came out of the
after
pipeline.
that, even if you believed it honestly, when Mr. Budram came out, everything changed. What did he do after then? And then they were hearing poundings in the pipe. Even subsequent to that, you knew they were alive.
Well,
right?
if
Michael, Michael went in, you know.
Yes.
And I'm sure if he just had an extra 100-footer line, because you showed something there 120 feet within that is generally the consensus as to where Mr. Budram moved forward from and was able to come out. So another extra 100 feet of line could have saved these men. When he came back out under the authority of the Coast Guard, under the authority of Paria, he was prevented. You can imagine how he would feel, that he was so close and they prevented me. Maybe they should have killed me. You know, things like that. I have to deal with these people. They're lovely human beings with horrible pain.
Now, because we stuck up on a point that I want to return to, it may be that if Paria wants to go the route of litigating this matter, that in determining liability and the chain of causation, I am sure Mr. Ramada will be taking them to task about their intentions, just what we are speaking about. So they better be prepared to answer questions as to why it is, what was operating in their mind when they decided to close that line. But we leave that there for now. Coming back to the point we were treating with before, you have a commission of inquiry. The government, and you have mentioned under the highest hand, Her Excellency the President, has initiated this commission of inquiry on the advice of the cabinet. You do that because you want to have confidence in an inquiry in determining what are the root causes and how are we going to prevent a reoccurrence of something of this magnitude or at all, any loss of lives. And here it is, you have the government coming. I'm not being political, I'm just saying these are the obvious facts. That report was available to the President in November 2023, correct?
Yes.
Government would have then gotten their copy.
The cabinet sat on it.
Cabinet sat on it. Cabinet decided in January to release it late in the parliament. But till now, the government has not said what recommendations
There you go.
have been put forward in this that
Adopted.
they are in agreement with, and even if you are not in agreement with, but that you see the need to implement. I mean,
It's a
I hand over
slap-
to you, yes.
It is a slap in the face of the authority of the president to have a commission that did its work in the public glare, made recommendations, and not a single one the government has said, we accept, we agree to. And now we are dealing with the issue of the ex gratia payment, which the chairman, when he made public that the report is ready and I shall be presenting to Her Excellency tomorrow, he spoke of this.
Yes.
So it's not like an overnight willy-nilly movement that, wait, the idea just came. They had time to consider all these things. And I am sure the board must have sat, and if they did not, something is wrong, to deal with that recommendation since November. It now being put into the parliament, into the public space, officially and formally. That is why we wrote, well, I gave instruction, I have to confirm whether the letter will go tomorrow, requiring of them a response. And let's see if it is that the ex gratia payment will be made, accept some level of responsibility. And you're right, ex gratia does not mean that you have to accept liability. I am very confident liability has been settled in them and in LMCS, let's not forget. But before we litigate, at least show some good faith. Some decency, man.
I don't know. We have just a few minutes again, and there are two issues I want to deal with. But one, before I go to the penultimate issue as we close off, the Prime Minister made certain comments in the Parliament, and I'm sure I know you keep, and notwithstanding no political cap, this is a matter of national importance.
Yes.
So I know you are keeping track of what is taking place. Prime Minister says, Honorable Prime Minister says in the Parliament last week Friday, that how could you say that people are starving when they in fact some $50 million would have been paid out? It seems as though he was suggesting that by virtue of Paria, Petrotrin, whatever incarnation of the company, right, was conducting works, that alongside with conducting the works they had in their employ or contracted with LMCS, and that somehow equates to the families not starving. Since when is this matter about people starving?
Well, look, the long and short of it is, yeah, whatever the contractual arrangements between Paria and LMCS would be, or had been, liability rests in both. And there's a lurking shadow in all of this, and maybe you would want to explore some of this. There was a person put on site as the expert overlooking the entire proceedings on behalf of Paria, hired by a company that Paria hired. That this person clearly, and you'll see the recommendations, you'll see the observations of the commission, was wholly unqualified to do the job. He was a pipe fitter.
Yes.
So we need to look at the hiring processes in relation to how Paria conducts its business now. Because I understand the most experienced and so have been gotten rid of. And then this company has been brought in to hire, and they are now managing the labor requirements of Paria. And I do not know what profitability, and I shan't go there today.
Yes.
Whether Paria paid LMCS 50 million or whatever, whether LMCS has helped families along the path a little bit, that does not take away from the responsibility of them both.
But it is so
They throw that figure.
irrelevant.
They throw that figure because I know how the politics works
Yes.
in the sense, oh, the 50 million, so they share up 50. No. I am giving real life examples of what I know, what I've been told by the families.
Yes.
They have received some assistance in relation to the girl. That's why she's still at university. But every month, every semester, they're scampering
They're
around.
fighting, yes.
Right? Aliyah has received not a cent. And I'm just saying, I don't know. So that all that will come out in due course. But that does not change the responsibility. And to throw a figure of 50 million, I'm surprised that is relevant to what is before us. I am saying that the families as lawyers, we have no knowledge of any payment by Paria in relation to the incident, formally, There's issue of workmen's compensation has been worked on by
and
LMCS.
that is the issue of irrelevance. It is so irrelevant. You are talking about payments made for contracted works over a period of time, which has nothing to do with this incident. Yes, with the loss of lives that has now taken place.
Let me make it clear, for those who do not appreciate, and the trolls that you spoke about earlier, this $50 million thing is cannon fodder. It's fodder really for them to feed on, to say, well, big money. No. The truth of the matter is that at the end of the day, both PARI and LMCS will be litigated against, if it is, that there's not a satisfactory settlement in this matter. Right? We do not see them in any, we hope that we don't have to go to war. But if we have to, we will, and we must. Because this might be that case that changes the way we value human life. And you know, I'm getting across the board, wherever I go, there's that feeling here that human life in Trinidad and Tobago has almost no value to those who hold office and power and authority in the moment, and they believe they're immune from the real world responsibilities. And we need to fix that, reset about responsibility to each other. This is a loving nation I grew up in. But that love, caring, is diminishing very quickly by the examples that we now see.
Well,
we need to fix that.
I want to tell you that you have really struck a nerve with me that we commonly say, and we often frequently say that, look, there's no value placed by the criminals on human life anymore. And there you say that in the context, and you hear it in the context of gangs shooting each other and killing one another. But who are the real criminals when we are looking at those who have been democratically elected, taking a position that they are not giving any value or placing any value on human life in these kind of circumstances?
And hide behind technical issues?
And hide behind technical issues.
How could you do that? When you have the power, responsibility, and authority to act. Forgive me for saying, but I sat in a cabinet, and whether you criticize or you agree with, there's one thing that always operated in the mind of that cabinet under the Prime Minister, that if it would help people, do it. If it is that we had a situation like this, I could tell you from examples, but I shan't, we don't have the time to do it. That we look after the people first, and then those other issues are dealt with as secondary. But important, yes. But the first priority was always looking after the immediate needs of families.
Now, we are clear, and we are out of time, but we are clear, Mr. Ramada, that I think we are clear, and I can safely say that we are ad idem, meeting of the minds, ladies and gentlemen, that the PARIA board should vacate office voluntarily. They should remove themselves from there. And that would be the first honorable act they would have committed, albeit it is way too late, but they should do that at this point in time.
MP, I want to stop you right away. That was an example we set in our government, that whenever there were serious allegations made against anyone, you step aside until you are cleared. Where is that standard? Everybody criticized the partnership at the time, but we set certain standards. Where are those standards today? You could, in the face of all of this, you sit comfortably in state positions of authority and power. Really?
And my final question, we have said that you are now, meaning the government and the relevant authorities, ministers of government are in possession, just like members of the public, you are in possession of this 520-page report, or thereabouts, Commission of Inquiry report. The government has not indicated whether through the Prime Minister, and he has had ample opportunity to do so, or otherwise, which of the recommendations are being facilitated as we speak, which recommendations are already on the way of being implemented. What is your view in terms of the line ministers? Do you think that the line ministers ought to act, notwithstanding that the Prime Minister may not have said or given the nod to do anything?
I try to be as balanced as I can. Having sat in government, I know things move much slower than you want it to. We'll give a decent time frame for those to digest, and listen, there are many things that happen at the same time. This is a high priority. So we would expect responses to those queries very soon, but we want to give them an adequate time frame within which to respond to those things. And maybe your good office could make that inquiry. We would. as to what is going to happen. Because we made the point from early, the Commission of Inquiry is not just about PARIA. It's about protocols, code of conduct, resource availability, and I suggested that we need to have, you may be too young, but there was a show called Thunderbirds.
Yes, I know
Yes?
the show, yes.
So that when there was emergencies throughout the world,
Yes.
the necessary, Thunderbird 4 will be sent off, or 3, depending on emergency. We have nothing like that here. The National Operations Center is no longer existing, and we need a coordinating force so that whatever the emergency, the expertise required, the equipment and availability, who has it, who are you going to call? We need to fix that. So I look forward to the implementation of those recommendations so that, yes, accidents may occur, but how you respond to it is very, very important, and we need to fix that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to first of all thank each and every one of you for tuning in to this program. Secondly, I would like to thank Mr. Prakash Ramada. I want to let you all know I have done cases with Mr. Ramada. I think we still have that tear gas case ongoing.
I look forward to that.
I have done more cases. We were on other, opposite sides, of the matter. And I have to say that on all of the occasions, and today being no exception, he continues to impress me with his command of the knowledge of the law and his pursuit of what is fair and what is just. So I really would like to say heartfelt thanks to you, Mr. Ramada. You have spent more than an hour and a half, 2 hours here with us, hour and a half program, but I know we met before and exchanged some pleasantries and stuff, so I'm really grateful to you. I am indebted that you have taken time, knowing your schedule as well in terms of your litigation and even this particular matter. I know it must not be easy that you will be getting demanding phone.
Live from San Fernando, this is the Opposition Anti-Crime Town Hall.
Andrea Barrett when she went missing. Today made 3 years. Exactly. Andrea Barrett when she went missing. Today made 3 years. Exactly 3 years when she went missing. From the day she was reported missing. So Hunter Search and Rescue Team was created around that period. When she went missing, there was a fellow by the name of Hard Grounds was on the social media and asking people to come out and search for Andrea Barrett. He have approval from the TTPS, and I joined the search as well. Andrea Barrett was found in the Arepo Heights. We know the story. We're not going back because of the time. After that, then the TTPS asked the hunters to continue and do a search with them in the Arepo Heights. I was in that search. In that search is where the TTPS see what the hunters can do. Because at that time, we was 21 hunters turned up at the time. We segregated in sections. I lead one of the team with 19 officers. Went down in the cliff and started to look for items. On those searches, eventually we found some items. It was in the media was different kind of, I don't want to attack it, but at the end of the day, we was hearing different things in the media. But those bones that was found, Shamsuddin Ayub, pick it and put it in the bag. So that to tell where I started from. After that finished, then we decided we want to continue help, join with the TTPS. About 7 to 8 persons remain. And we decided that we want to help the people, help partner with the TTPS. That was our thought. Because we always criticizing the Trinidad and Tobago police. We are always criticizing the TTPS. But what we do, we have a chance to partner with them, so we decided, and that's how we end up create the name. So we went underneath a tree, and we decided names. Everybody come up with different names, and Shamsuddin Ayub, come up with the name Hunter. Well, I come up with the name AB, which is Andrea Barrett, Hunter Search and Rescue Team. And then down the road, we take out the name AB, because AB, we have a little conflict with the word AB, Andrea Barrett, but the Hunter Search and Rescue Team remain. And then I, Shamsuddin Ayub, put in the word Sham, S-H-A-M, and registered. So you get Sham, Hunter Search and Rescue Team. This is the only legitimate document on Hunter Search and Rescue Team, because I create the name and I am the one, is the owner of the original owner of Hunter Search and Rescue Team. So we continue from then looking for missing persons, joined on the ground. Basically, we don't want to go through the details because a lot we can't finish it. But I was on the ground dealing with missing persons, looking for persons. When someone go missing, then that come to me direct, that many people don't know, but I can't come and say certain things to the public because the time running. What I was doing on the ground. When someone go missing, it can be a UNC, you can be a PNM, you can be a ILP, you can be what is it? I will go and look for every single missing persons come to us. It takes a lot of strength, and also it takes a lot within us to look for missing person. It's not just going out and look for missing person. Firstly, you have to guard. There's a lot of information come. Sometimes be hours on phone with family members. So you have to, by going through those things, you have to get the information. Some cases have maybe 10 to 15 information coming in. We have to sift those information very quickly, very fast, because someone missing outside. And we sift those information and make it into intelligence and then put it into evidence and then move forward. So that's how quick we work, but also we work with the TTPS. Now we work with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. We also work with the fire service, because last night we come out from an operation where 2 hikers were stranded in Balandra. Those hikers was found around 11:30 last night. With the last walk we walked with 4 of our members, 1 hiker and another search team member. We started to walk from 9 o'clock and 12:30 in last night. We end up then we reached to the destination for that vehicle picked us up. So over 3.5 hours we was in the forest, but we do 2 searches before that to pick up these hunters. The time going. So we want to move on very quickly. The problem now that And all of this we have been doing. There are so many cases. Let me go back to Kimani. When Kimani went missing, it was a famous story again. Now, I was in the water diving below the bridge with the Coast Guard. There's a lot of people don't know that. I was there. When Kimani found, I was by the cash pit, diving, take the middle stage, because I'm a good diver. If you watch over some of the videos, you will see I dived. I dived in the Ottawa River as well, lately with the young 4-year-old boy that went missing and was drowned in the Ottawa River. I was also in the Ottawa River dive. So when Kimani, I was with the Coast Guard, when I went by the cash pit, we dived from the cash pit forward. If you notice, they said he was found just after a log. Now, on that log, I was right there. I stopped the dive right there because I was leading the operation. And I hugged the log and I turned back. Lo and behold, Kimani was 3 feet from there when we found him the next morning. That we will not continue to make those mistakes. We learn from our mistakes and we try to improve. That's how Hunter Search and Rescue Team. There are so many cases I can go forward with. Look, for example, we're dealing with cases like Orion Gomez. Orion Gomez was missing from Arima. The amount of searches, we put on nearly 2 months of searches, and we continue. We will not give up for these people. There are a lot of searches continue, and we, as from the Hunter Search and Rescue Team, with our member, we will not give up. We will help the people of this beautiful country of Trinidad and Tobago. But our plan here today, our purpose here today is crime. Now, I stand on a political platform, and I want to mention it very clear. I respect the opposition leader. I respected the member of parliament. I respected the government. I respected everybody in Trinidad and Tobago. I respect the leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. I respect the commissioner of police, because from time to time, we don't want to go that way yet. We have communication. Right, so we search and rescue come and be so people trust us. People recognize that we are doing a lot of good works on the ground, but our information are very, very tight. We don't leak our information to the public. We protected people information that they bring to us. We hold it and lock it down. Now, I create a system that it cannot be leaked out. If it do leak out, we know where it leaked from, and we will deal with that. But we never have that so far for the past 3 years. Now, I created a plan to solve crime. Right? This is a document that I have sent to the Commissioner of Police. And I also send this to the Minister of National Security. And I also have discussion in the Arang West Community Center with 2 Deputy Commissioner of Police, the Minister of National Security, and other authority. So the same document was this. So it's not nobody can say that I never saw this document. This document went to several political leaders, went to several business associations, it went to several religious organizations, and we have done a lot on this document. Right? This document was drafted in 2022. November 2022. The document is Hunter Search and Rescue Team partner with religious leaders to help curb crime. We can't stop crime, but we can bring it down. Right? And the way forward in doing this is that we created a body. We have already went through this since last year. As I said, it's about 8 or 9 months this document was sent to the Commissioner of Police. We have discussion on it. What we have decided here, crime is everybody's business. I will stand at any platform, anyway, any association, and talk about crime. Because the little bit of knowledge that I gather from Hunter Search and Rescue Team, also I am the senior investigating officer. I don't want to mention that because I have a lot of experience on the ground, on the field itself. Now, the structure of this organization, we can't read it out because time catching on me. I want you to understand what we structure. We structure is Hunter Search and Rescue Team with 2 leaders, with 2 members from the Search and Rescue, 2 imams, 2 pastors, and 2 pundits, put all together. And we have a board, we have a higher board, included myself on that. Then we will come below and we have a second organization that created with everybody else. Some people object to that. Some people ask for call a public meeting. I hold back everything because we have to wait on the right time. Now, all of this we have done. We have went in a lot of depth of information, discussed this with a lot of people. what we have decided here to do is that we want the public to partner with us. We want to partner with the TTPS. We want to partner with the authority, because the Commissioner of Police at many times stand up and said she need the religious leaders, she need the society, she need the public to help in terms of solving crime. And that is what we are here to respond to her, that yes, Hunter Search and Rescue Team, led by Commander Shamsuddin Ayub, willing to partner with the Commissioner of Police and the authority to bring crime down. If we start this 3 to 4 months, by the help of the Almighty, we cut murder rate in half. We don't want to go there because we know the consequence of this. As I said, we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of information, but in all organizations, there are so many different. There are people in organization that we can't trust. Now, TTPS is a very good organization. It's run by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. But the citizens are not trust the police. We know this for the fact. And we want to partner with the citizen. Take your information, take your information, put it to intelligence, and send it to the TTPS. Create a body. So when we send it to them, we fast track the information so that they can work and move forward, because they're short of resource, they're short of manpower. We want to do that, join with the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and put forward these ideas and send it forward, because a lot of people, information are all over the country, but people afraid to give it to someone or give it to anyone, because why? They know if they give to someone, where it will go. Because when they send it out, you'll see the next day or the following day that person on the street. We don't want to go down that road again. So what we are partnering with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we create this organization with everybody. We are not talking about ourselves. We don't want no name, no fame. That is not my ambition. That is not my intention. That is not my way forward. What we want is to help the people of this beautiful country, because all of us are a threat in the sight of the. We don't want to go there because we don't want to use certain words. But as I said, we can bring it down, partner with everybody together. This is not my thing. This is not the religious leaders' thing. This is everybody in Trinidad and Tobago thing. We want to partner with everybody to help to bring down the crime rate. Believe you me, we can bring it down, because we have done this in Hunter Search and Rescue Team. We work over 12 to 1,500 cases for the past 3 years. How many murder rates we have within every year? 5 to 600. How many people go missing? 5 to 600. We don't want to explain all of this publicly because, as I said, time limited. So we can partner. And what we have done with Search and Rescue, where we finance these things from, nobody from our pocket, member pocket. We're not receiving nothing from nobody. We have been funded from ourselves, and we want to continue put this effort, this goodness that we want to do to the people of this beautiful country, help the people of this country, and we want to continue in terms of bringing unity and love, because one of the things that falls short is love. Now, less than a minute. What caused crime in Trinidad and Tobago? We hear a lot of talks on crime, but the thing that caused crime in Trinidad and Tobago is justice is not shared equally across the board. And we as Hunter Search and Rescue Team and the religious leaders want to put a stop to that. Justice must go to every single one. We are not allowed continue to allow it to see it. We will not allow it to continue, because we have seen it from time to time. We are not attacking no one. We are not attacking anyone. The problem is that we here to help with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. As I said, I will write to the Prime Minister for a discussion. We'll continue with the Commissioner of Police and his deputy, because me and a lot of them have good relationship. And as I said, I'm on a political platform, and I will stand at any political platform, any religious organization, anyway, for help the people of Trinidad and Tobago. وكل قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much. Please let's give him a round of applause. Very passionate about what he does and the work that he does. Can I ask our team, are there any more chairs? Do we have any more chairs, please? People up at the back, we have some extra chairs. We'll put them out front. So if you could make your way down, I will give you a few minutes. Can we get some more chairs out, please? We have to thank all of you for coming out. We have a full house overflowing. Johnny's telling me we need a bigger space next time. The bigger space next time, Johnny, will be all of Trinidad and Tobago as we go to fight crime throughout the country. So can we put some chairs out if we have more? Some of you very kind gentlemen can help us. You're a fine gentleman, please help. Can we pause for a cause to welcome all these gentlemen and ladies from the OWTU? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. That's it for the chairs? Well, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much. Can we please carry on with the program? Nicholas, thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, we thank you for coming out in your hundreds and the hundreds joining us online as the leader of the opposition continues to move a united approach to return safety and security to every family, community, and constituency of this country. Our next speaker is Mr. Donny Rogers. He's an elected director of the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago, where he sits as the chairman of the Education Committee, chairman of the Internationalization Committee, chairman of the Elections Committee, and the National Livestock Representative of the Board of Directors. In December 2023, he was awarded the title of Professor at the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India. Currently, he is the Managing Director of his family-owned business, Farm Fresh Dairy Products, which has grown to become the second largest indigenous dairy processor in Trinidad and Tobago in just 7 years. He also hosts a monthly online forum titled Focus on Agriculture, where he brings awareness on national agricultural issues with a focus on the sustainable development of our national agricultural sector. Mr. Rogers is a strong advocate for our local farmers and the sustainable development of their farms, as well as our local production of food and value-added products. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Donny Rogers.
Pleasant good evening to all, to the Honorable Political Leader, Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, members of Parliament, everyone here tonight. Good. Before I start, as we have the crowd this close up, I'd like to get a little engaging, right? All those who are fed up of high food prices, let me see by a show of hands. All those, everybody fed up of high food prices. Let me hear it again. All those who really can't understand why tomatoes have to be $20 a pound. Right? Good. So let me give you one little dimension, and people don't realize this. We don't think about it. It's not at the top of our minds, but it's reality. From the last 8 years to today, rice production in this country dropped by 93% over the last 8 years. Vegetable production dropped by 35%. Legumes, peas, dropped by 55%. Root crops, 27%. And we only produce 8% of the milk that we use in this country. We import over $180 million in milk annually. We have moved from 150 dairy farmers to just about 75. And that is the backdrop that I'm going to use. In 2015, we had 93 reports of predial larceny in this country. In 2016, the mechanism was still working, so we had 73. From 2017 to 2022, that figure went up between 50 and almost 100%. because the figures stood at 132, 136, up to 177, which is almost double. One of the largest issues facing food production is the issue of pre-deal larceny. And this has turned into a multi-million-dollar business for the criminal enterprises. Last year, 125 dairy cows were stolen in this country from farms throughout. When they are stolen, there's only one thing that's going to happen for it. They're going to slaughter. So you lose that production. You lose everything about that. The value of that is over $2 million. So you see where the criminals making money, right? Criminals, bandits could come into your farm, steal animals, put them in vans, drive down the road, and they will not get caught. Because out of these 125 dairy cows that were stolen last year, not one was recovered. No one was arrested for it. So in broad daylight, they go in, and they're not being held. Why? Because of the pre-deal larceny unit. The pre-deal larceny unit has been left without the proper, how should I put it? Without the proper leadership, without the systems, without the resources to carry out their work, without the proper legislation. If I may, our very own chairman, Rampazad, I remember in discussion, he lost over $200,000 in watermelon at 1 year. And here those guys went with it. 60,000 pounds of watermelon were transported in a car whole night, up and down. Nobody stopping, nobody checking, nobody doing anything. Just last week, one of the largest rice producers in this country lost a pump valued at about $75,000. That pump is so big that they go in the back of a van and transport it out of there, passing right next to the police station in the area, and nothing. Against this backdrop, I am saying that the crime situation is not just against farmers, it is against food production. It is against your ability to get food and your ability to afford food. Demand and supply. When the commodities go less, the prices go up. But you know what's the funny thing about it? Farmers not really all that worried about pre-deal larceny anymore, you know. Farmers worried about crimes against their person. In Jerningham Junction farmlands, one of the highest producing farming areas, a farmer was held up, produce stolen, money stolen, equipment stolen, vehicles stolen, and they were beaten. So that farmer was not a farmer anymore. He have anything in order to go and become productive afterwards. Because of the nature of this one, I wouldn't go into the details. An elderly farmer was hog-tied in front of his family, tortured. I will not go into the details of the torture. And that crime was not solved. I am not just here speaking to you as a professional. I am here speaking to you as a farmer, as a business owner, and even I myself, I was shot on my back on a farm. So the crime situation is, to farmers, it has taken a toll on their capacity to produce, where you see many farmers opting to just stop, leave it, forget about it. Farmers are getting out of food production, and it's very easy to see that. If you look at the newspapers, you read the classifieds, all you're seeing is county to limited acres, 2-acre lands being sold, and it being sold for dirt cheap prices. You are seeing farms being sold, you are seeing large acreages of farmlands being sold. And this will never work towards bringing food production to where it's supposed to be. The farmers of Trinidad and Tobago have not had any support over the last 8 years with regards to pre-deal larceny, and more so, crimes against their person. 3 to 4 years ago, the Food Import Bill 6 to 7, sorry, not 3 to 4. The food import bill was $5.2 billion. Last year, it was 7.3, the highest we have ever had in this country. And it's not going to get better. My prediction is that if nothing is done about the crime situation and how it affects farmers and the farmers' ability to produce food, we're going to end up in a situation where it would not make sense to try to grow food locally. Because that food import bill could hit close to $10 billion. And at that stage, it makes no sense trying to bring back our local food production. The time to create that change is now. Currently, we have a situation where the Carson Field office for the pre-deal larceny unit has closed. So that means from Curup to San Fernando, there are no pre-deal larceny officers in the highest food producing regions of the country. The farmers have no support, nobody to call when something happens. And how could a decision like this be made? Farmers of Trinidad and Tobago are competent and willing to ensure that everybody have access to food at a good price and good quality food. However, when they are faced with situations where all their crops are being stolen, their equipment being stolen, they're shot, they're beaten, they are terrorized, how are they to produce? They are not going to. And that is why you will see locally grown produce at $20, $30, $40 a pound. We need proper decisions to be made. We need security. We need leadership, none of which we have had for the last 8 years. Whilst we allow crimes against farmers to flourish, the pockets of the importers are also flourishing. And that means that is you guys going to pay the price for it. Nobody else but the consumer. The time is now for change, and I ask you to think, how can we go forward without change? There is no way that we could go forward in the agricultural sector without positive change. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. As we work together to come up with solutions with respect to the problems facing our country, we have to watch that we are victims, not just somebody lick you down, hurt you. We are further victims and all our families, which also helps to build up more crime when we can't feed ourselves and our families. So I think your contribution today is well appreciated. Let us thank Mr. Rogers. And then what is the solution? If you're talking about pre-deal larceny, I remember when we were in government, we had that issue with us as well. You made a point it has increased over time because they've killed the squad, the pre-deal larceny squad. And solution is a simple one. Why are we killing all these special units within the TTPS, within law enforcement, that further impacts and hurts people in our country? So I would say, Mr. Rogers, what you're saying to us, we need to change the leadership in order to get the right projects and policies implemented. I hand over to Filiana now. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Dr. Velini Pandit is our next presenter. Dr. Velini Pandit is a clinical psychologist in private practice for over 12 years. In the past, Dr. Pandit has lectured psychology courses at the University of West Indies Open Campus and at the Cipriani College in Valsine. She has served in corporate life on the board of directors of the National Enterprises Limited and TSTT. Additionally, she has given numerous talks to schools, medical associations, businesses, and media appearances. She was honored by the High Commission of India for distinguished service in yoga in Trinidad and Tobago. In addition, she was the founding chairperson of the Congress of the People's Youth Congress. Throughout her life, Velini has remained humble and committed to her social and religious responsibilities, and is an active member, musician, and singer in her temple at the Vyas Hindu complex. She continues to dedicate her life to the service of all and the upliftment of Trinidad and Tobago. Miss Dr. Velini Pandit.
Our host, the Leader of the Opposition, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, honorable members of Parliament, members of the panel, and to the hundreds of you here this evening, and those joining online, a very good evening to you all. The rate of crime in Trinidad and Tobago is now at unprecedented levels. This is not news to us. This is why we've gathered here today. And it's continuing to rise. The rate of crime in Trinidad and Tobago, statistically, the World Population Review showed recently that out of the 196 countries that make up planet Earth, what should be our little slice of paradise is ranked the 6th highest crime rate in the world. Think about that. We have outmatched, in terms of our crime rate, countries like Syria, Yemen, even Jamaica. Trinidad and Tobago, the 6th highest crime rate in the world. Among the Caribbean islands alone, we are now number 1. As a psychologist and a clinician, I stand before you today to share with you that the impact of crime on mental health is of no small order. There is an economic cost to crime, of course. That is not my purview. But I dare say the psychosocial impact of crime is even greater. We have increased psychological distress, decreased quality of life, and the erosion of trust and confidence in authorities. Both statistical research, as well as my own personal experience as a clinician, confirms that the increase in crime substantially increases reported levels of depression and anxiety. It weakens self-confidence, and it increases overall mental distress. In adulthood, for us adults, exposure to violence leads to poorer health outcomes. Not just mental health, including depression, anxiety, trauma, and stress, but even poorer medical health condition outcomes. In terms of the impact on our young people, which I'm passionate about, decades of research has established a connection between adverse childhood experiences, such as violence and abuse, and lifelong health outcomes. For children who are exposed to violence, there is chronic disease and mental disorders. Children and adolescents who are merely exposed to violence are at risk for poorer long-term behavioral and mental health outcomes, such as depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is those who are just exposed to crime. And what I mean is, regardless of whether they are actual victims of crime, they are direct witnesses of crime, or even just hearing about crime, we have these poorer outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree that the citizenry as a collective, we are faced with constant fear of crime. Added to that, the regular stresses, economic burden, climate change, by God, just the traffic on the roads on a daily basis. It is impacting us, our mental health. There is impact on our family life. It's now trickling to impact our community engagement and even our spiritual life. The most basic theory in psychology, and many of you who would have studied any basic psychology will know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And this proposes that there is a hierarchy, There's a list of needs that need to be met for an individual to achieve their fullest potential. And similarly, if I were to impose this on a collective of us, individual as a nation, we would see that the basic needs for us to thrive and actualize as a people, the basic needs are food, clothing, shelter, and other than that, the next most important thing is safety and security. If we are denied this basic need on a chronic basis of safety and security, we're going nowhere fast. We need this safety and security. We cannot have a discussion on crime and its impact without talking about drugs. There is a direct relationship between the drug industry, legal and illegal, and crime in the country. Of recent, the government has tried to address this in one way by legalizing marijuana. Without the proper framework to support a move like this, what we have, and I see it in my practice all the time, is an increase in psychosis, in addiction, in abuse, an increase in cannabis use disorder, an increase in school dropouts, and this is all impacting not just crime, but society as a whole. We need more than this. What it has done, yes, I admit, we now have a reduced amount of the petty crimes for possession of small amounts of marijuana going to the courts, but has it had any impact on the number one problem facing Trinidad and Tobago, which is crime? No, it has not. And the opposition leader made very pertinent statements recently on this topic, which I fully support. Other than illegal drugs, there's one thing that I want to mention tonight. We also have a breeding, silent opiate crisis in this country. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Dangerous Drugs Act, number 24 of 2019, has certain drugs listed as a class 2 dangerous drug. And this means it could be recognized for having medical uses, but only under strict supervision, because there's a high potential for abuse and dependency. This includes opiate drugs like codeine, for example, Tramadol, so many and these should be highly regulated. But in this country, countries across the world, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Canada, it is not even allowed in the country and highly, highly regulated if so. But in Trinidad and Tobago, why can a young person go into a pharmacy and pick up as many bottles of codeine that they want or any other drugs without a prescription, fueling an addiction crisis? And again, there is no auditing. The government in their last report has said that they don't have enough pharmacists to make up the audit personnel to audit the pharmacies to ensure that everything is going, so everybody is doing what they want. It's our children, it's our brothers and sisters that are suffering. Where is the information? How do we help our own people? Justice delayed, this is something my dad taught me, justice delayed is justice denied. Could you imagine the pain and the mental agony of family and friends who have to wait months and sometimes years to find out if the body that was found is a member of their family? For more than a decade, we have been promised a new forensic sciences center. Where is that? It's 2024. There's nothing. And we can't blame the officers working there, you know. They are working tirelessly. They are stressed, they are tired, they are depressed, they have thousands of backlog cases, but no resources. Where is the priority? How can we tackle a problematic crime rate, a failing justice system, without addressing things as basic as forensics in this country? The nervous system of this nation, when I work with clients, one of the things that I often do when it is required is nervous system education, to understand the difference between an overactivated nervous system, how to bring regulation into that. If I put this Again, looking at the nation as a whole, of us as a person, collectively, I can say without doubt that the nervous system of this nation is stuck on fight or flight mode. We are constantly looking over our shoulders. As a woman, as a young professional, I know, and even my friends, who has not left for good, if they want to enjoy the simple pleasure of taking a walk and feeling safe, they have to fly out of the country. Is that something we should be able to do? Ladies and gentlemen, fight or flight is quite literal. Those who remain, we're fighting for our lives, and those who have the resources, the brain drain is exponential. For how long will we as a people accept this? In my mind, and this is with no legal background or legal jargon, I find the amount of stress and crime that we have to tolerate in this country almost amounts to a human rights violation. It's becoming increasingly difficult to live in Trinidad and Tobago and to have a sense of peace. We now have a nation of beautiful citizens walking around highly stressed, frustrated, scared. Reading the newspaper is a traumatic event, and they feel helpless. Very important, that sense of helplessness about their power to do anything. Town hall meetings like this, I ask you, shouldn't this be, if a government knows that they are grappling with crime for over 10 years, shouldn't they tap into the wisdom of the people to find solutions? Why there is a need for participatory governments? Why isn't the government holding talks on crime? They don't listen. Empowering people and giving them a sense of agency in being able to control their future, to be able to deal with the problems together as one people, this is very good for mental health, and we need more like these. And our honorable opposition leader, I thank you for creating the opportunity. And you can tell that the people of this country are thirsty to get involved and to find solutions by virtue of the hundreds of people that are here today and the thousands more, I'm sure, are online. Along with a failure to address crime, there's also a failure to develop policy opportunities for buffering the impact of the detrimental effect of crime on the people. We need public health strategies to address crime while we deal with crime and justice on its own. We also need public health strategies to address crime and violence, focusing on building resilience, reducing susceptibility, building healthy gender norms, developing healthy relationships, and creative, protective environments. My brothers and sisters, the impact of crime on us as a people, on our mental health, on our ability to thrive and realize our fullest potential is in no short order. And I believe that the time is coming for us to shake ourselves out of the state of helplessness, to take action and make the decisions necessary to put people in the places who are willing to listen to you and who are willing to do something effectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Looking at the crime epidemic from a different perspective and sharing with us some things that we may know and some new things that we learn. The good point I think you are making for us, all of us, is that there are people out there willing and able. You know, right now I'm coming here, when I say right now, a short while ago, and I have the news on, the car, the radio is on, and the news is right now, Prime Minister of this country held crime talks in Washington. Held crime talks in Washington today, not with the nationals, not with the diaspora. He's holding crime talks with officials in Washington. And this is the kind of scant courtesy that this government intends to hand down. I wonder if you all remember when there was a famous, Rudy, what was it, the CARICOM symposium on crime. Oh, yes, yes, at the Hyatt. They won't come to San Fernando to talk to you. $5 million at the Hyatt. And what has happened since then? Nothing. So it was a CARICOM things. Then the government promised us they would do anti-crime talks in our country, and that morphed into and became the CARICOM summit that they held in the Hyatt. I understand and I thank you for your comment that we must meet you, the people, and we must listen to you, because obviously what they've been doing, it hasn't worked, and it is not working. I ask Nicholas now to, a very seasoned panelist to present to you now. Go ahead, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Opposition Leader. I have been asked by the organizers to inform you that there is not a single seat available in Naparima Auditorium today, as the crowd has now reached the thousands. And we have been joined by a very diverse group of people from the unions, the diplomatic corps, as well as businessmen. But we have some very notable individuals here this evening. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Leo Bradshaw, former Deputy President of the Senate. We'd like to also acknowledge Reverend Ralph Umrao, former moderator of the Presbyterian Church, Ms. Lucina Cardenas Ragunanan, former Chief Magistrate, and businessman Mr. Harry Ragunanan, and most of all, the beautiful people of Trinidad and Tobago who have come out in their thousands to meet and listen to the Leader of the Opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker began his service with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in 1977. Mr. Abraham spent 20 years in the Criminal Investigation Department in Chaguanas. He then went on to become the Inspector of the Homicide Investigation Department for 5 years in the Northern Division, and then the Eastern Division, Northeastern Division, spanning from Mova, Toko, and Tabalon. Mr. Abraham became Senior Superintendent for the entire Central Division, which put him in charge of the whole division, where he made notable and sustainable change. Mr. Abraham, in addition to his remarkable duties as an officer, has also formed 8 youth clubs, or police youth clubs, from Londonville to Tabaquite, which focus on educating the youth and allowing them to participate in sporting and cultural activities in an effort to stray them away from a life of crime. He also has extensive training and awards in various fields of policing and criminology. Let us welcome Mr. Johnny Abraham this evening.
This is not a degree. A special good afternoon to the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Ms. Kamala Pasabi-Sessa. All other protocols observed. There are so many distinguishable people in this audience that if I go to welcome them, my 15 minutes will be up. Well, as you heard the presenter, that my name is Johnny Abraham, and it will always remain Johnny Abraham. Thank you. Thanks. It will always remain Johnny Abraham. That's so short. Firstly, I must say that I am here to speak on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, where crime and criminality has taken over this country. And the name Johnny Abraham, to me, is a powerful name. I was never fearful of anyone in this country, and nobody is going to tell me to shut up. However, I hail from a home with discipline, and I work in a disciplined service for close to 40 years. I worked in a disciplined service for 40 years, and I'm not going to disrespect anybody. Who want to say whatever they want to say, can feel free to say that. I am not fearful of anyone in this country. I will not be intimidated, and I'll not be bullied by no one to keep quiet where crime is concerned in this country. The honorable leader said that she's willing to give each member of the protective services firearm user's license to own and obtain firearms. Some people might say it is not a good idea. And that goes for the police, army, coast guard, and all the rest of the persons in the protective services. And you see, having been a police officer, involved in all kind of chase, shootout, you name it, where my life was in danger several times. I know how an officer feels when he's leaving duty and have to hand in his firearm. In this modern day and age, criminals have sophisticated weapons. You go on a crime scene, it's frightening to see the different calibers: 7.62 ammunition, 5.56, 9mm, 45.40 ammunition. And apparently, these criminals, when they go on a crime scene, they shoot off sometimes 70, 80 rounds to send fear to the public and to the police officers. You imagine an officer just involved in one of those dramas, on his way home, nothing to protect himself and his family, not even his neighbors. You tell me if that police officer could function properly. But I am saying, under the leadership of the great opposition leader, Ms. Kamala Persaud-Wisesa, that will change, and it will change shortly. I am in full agreement with that proposal. And ma'am, I can safely tell you that over 3,000 to 4,000 officers have contacted me, and they cannot wait for the day that you step as the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. The honorable leader spoke about stand your ground in this country. People make a big holo-bolo about it. Imagine you have innocent citizens, hard-working people, lying in their homes, well protected by burglar-proof dogs and you name it. They have been murdered in their home. Families have been raped. Their prized possessions have been taken away. You could imagine Mr. Ram Kisoon, who was murdered recently. I am sure that his family is afraid to even stay in their own home. That is how far crime has reached in this country. And then you want to tell me, shut up when I'm talking about crime? I am not going to shut up. I am going to speak out on behalf of the people of this country. And, you know, I want to make a proposal, you know, that for all the persons who say no to firearm, for persons who have all the qualifications to obtain a firearm, why they don't keep a referendum in this country to find out from the public if they want people to own firearms? Keep a referendum. It's the same thing with stand your ground. Too much of people in this country have been brutalized, and all we hear is a sort of talk. Another topic I want to raise is that when I spoke about leadership in the police service, well, I came in for some real blows, but that didn't ruffle my feathers. Because recently a promotion was made where the commissioner went to the media and apologized for a promotion that was made, and apparently it wasn't fair. Imagine a simple thing like a promotion. And when you speak about these things, people are saying, well, because them have degree, they're supposed to run the service as degree. Means nothing if you don't apply what you learn. Common entrance children will make marks 199 down the road. You will know who to place in what school. So, as an example, officers made high marks, and other officers who made lower marks than those officers were promoted. Is that fair to the officers? Last week, no, I don't want the police service to feel that I batter nobody, but I'm speaking about the management. Imagine last week, Thursday, several officers was called to police administration building with a view of taking back these promotion stripes. But apparently, the administration got word and they leave them with the stripe. You know who was present in that meeting, ma'am? You had people from the witness and support unit in case these officers fainted when they heard the result. How these officers could go back to function when other officers really tell them, you get a stripe by mistake. No motivation. So how they expect these officers to serve this country wholeheartedly? Another thing I would like to talk about with the police service is that you're hiring people to become police officers from the public, which is great. But I am saying that you have special reserve officers who are already 15 and 20 years in the service, doing the same work as regular police officers. Why not employ some of them to be regular police officers? They are doing the same work and underpaid. There's a saying in the United States of America, and I want to say the same thing here. When you have a society that is starved of lawful firearms, the unlawful takeover, just as what happened in Trinidad. Meaning that if you arm people with firearms in Trinidad, these criminals will be pegged back, because they wouldn't know who to attack and who not to attack. And I want to call on the divisional commanders to know your areas in the 9 police division. Come outside, meet the people in the public. Have conversation with the people. Every time you see a police vehicle pass, you will see all the glass wind up. The marked police vehicle with heavy tint. You can't make out who in the vehicle. I am saying that as a good leader, you're supposed to be leading from the front, as I said prior. Take command of your division. And if the 9 division commanders take charge of the division and monitor every criminal activity that is taking place by means of the wireless communication set, then you could lock down an area in less than 5 minutes. I could stand up right here a long time with a wireless set and lock down the whole of Central Division in 2 minutes. I remember some time ago, there was a bomb scare in Point Lisas. And I was able to close off Claxton Bay Main Road one time, Riverlet Road, and St. Andrews by the junction there. No vehicle couldn't come in. So that was safety for people. Another thing I would like to say is that being a police officer, you have to be dedicated. My day used to start at 7 o'clock officially. And when I reach the station, you'll find 20 persons sit down there waiting to report other officers for negligence of the duty and so on. I will deal with these people. Then I will take up my wireless set and my vehicle. I never had a driver. I drove myself for all these years in the police service. I didn't want a black vehicle with no driver, so that if a crime happening, you're passing straight and nobody don't know it's a police. I used to drive a marked police vehicle with the blue light spinning all the time. So when you have persons who are not motivated, you cannot get 100% from these officers. You cannot get 100% from these officers. I have a lot more to say, but I'm looking at the time. But I will give you piece by piece in more conversations. Ma'am, I want to assure you that you have the full support of most of the police officers, the fire officers, the prison officers, members of the army, waiting for you to become the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to fulfill your promise to give them their firearm user's license. I want to thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnny Abraham, a well-known figure throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for your comments, your suggestions. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. And whilst on the platform, our panelists have each spoken within their own purview of knowledge and so on, we are moderating this platform, and I want you to understand what's happening. There are some who are of the view that we, meaning my MPs and senators and myself, that we should come and talk down to you, that we should come and tell you what are our plans. I've spent years telling you UNC plans, stand your ground, firearm users license, legislative opportunities, areas dealing with the witness protection program. That program has totally collapsed. In the very first anti-crime talks the opposition held with the then Prime Minister, incoming Prime Minister Rowley, that was one of the first pieces of legislation. We said, you have to fix the witness protection program. Because a crime is committed and no witness wants to come forward. They're afraid. So there are many things we have been talking and we'll continue to talk. But these anti-crime talks, I want you to understand before we open the floor to you, is for us to hear from you. Are you willing to speak to us? That's the question I'm asking you. Will you speak to us today and after? And when we want to talk to tell you about our plans and policies, it will be a different forum. It will be a Monday night report or pavement reports where we as politicians will come and share various aspects of crime fighting, of the economy, healthcare, education, whatever it may be. But the way we envisage this forum, the anti-crime talks, is for us to hear from you and hear from other qualified persons. So together we can take all these suggestions and build on defense strategies and solutions to fight crime. So are we in agreement? Can we hear from you now? So mics are available. Are you ready? Yes, thank you. Our team will be, if you put your hand up, our team will be sharing the mics with you. Can you come down if you want to speak? Please come down, yes.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, SC. No. Members of the distinguished members of your panel, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I realize that there are many people here. If we begin to call names, I could stay here all night.
Are we having a difficulty with the volume, please? Can we fix the mic?
Yeah, I prefer.
Can you come up here? Be careful.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Today, I am speaking not on my own behalf, but I am here to represent my daughter, Ms. Karen Ascarali.
We are still having problems with the volume, please. Somebody please help her. Maybe get the mic directly, or maybe you could give her my mic here. Can you take this mic to her, please? Someone.
All right, today I am representing my daughter, who exactly 11 years ago was shot in her face 11 years ago. Karen Asgarali, it was a time just like this, season and everything. But out of this devastating experience, she founded the NPO, Project RARE, R-A-R-E, which is raising the awareness of the ripple effect of gun violence. The organization advocates for peace and resilience, building through peace sessions in which professionals provide information about the physical, emotional, financial, and spiritual aspects associated with the trauma of violence, especially from guns. Project RARE has evolved into an educational organization sharing on character building values such as forgiveness, compassion, and integrity. This group and its founder believes that every citizen has a right to safety and security and should not have to take on the burden of protection that the state should provide. We are not political. We are people-oriented, seeking peace, hope, and a positive environment for all. We believe in empowerment through education and in using hurt and pain to drive hope for positive societal transformation. We believe that every positive action is significant. It was like any normal day. My daughter returned to her home after a day at work as a teacher at MUDSEC. In the evening, she went for a drive with a friend when they encountered bandits on a rampage who were being chased by the police. The bandits were looking for a getaway car. Yes, you guessed right. Hers was there. In trying to take control of the car, they began to shoot at the driver. But instead, my daughter got shot. One bullet went through her lower jaw on the left side of her face and exited on the right, shattering her jaw, jawbone, and the teeth. Her tongue was almost severed, slipping backwards, threatening to strangle her. She was also shot in the chest and shoulder. Relating this sounds like it took a long while, but in a fleeting moment, that extensive damage took place. Blood poured profusely from where her chin used to be. Thankfully, the nearby police vehicle that was chasing the bandits took her to the hospital. After emergency surgery, she spent a month there, several weeks without being able to speak, and about 9 months without eating solid foods. She was a chemistry teacher at MUDSEC and was preparing students for their final exams. So being away from school affected them in their preparations. So after a month at hospital and several months of surgeries, follow-ups, and clinics, she was medically boarded as she could not attend school. Whatever savings she had, along with funds from the sale of her car and a fundraiser organized by her colleagues, had to be used for additional reconstructive and plastic surgery. The time she spent at hospital, not due to illness, deprived an ill citizen of medical care. All the hospital treatment had to be paid for with your money, taxpayers' dollars. You also had to pay for police investigations, medical staff, and ambulance services to take for external panoramic x-rays and MRI, which could not be done at hospital. That bill would have been astronomical. The effect, psychological, physical, and mental on students, fellow teachers, neighbors, community, and the international community cannot be measured. Notwithstanding, she's a mother, an only daughter and a sister, the effect this had on our family. My thought was, thank God, her father had already passed, as I don't know how he would have handled this. When God wants to send his message, he sometimes uses the dramatic to get our attention. Ladies and gentlemen, the gunfire continues. But tonight I pray for a ceasefire, whether instituted by us or divine intervention. How many more must die? Tonight, I thank God, we were able to forgive the bandits, and the Almighty is using her to propagate peace. I thank you on her behalf for the opportunity to share. Good night.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we have members who are willing to speak? And whilst we want to hear and share, and for you to share with us, I know there are many members who would like to speak, so we can put a little brakes on how long. Reverend Rao, I'm asking you to please don't give us your whole Sunday sermon right now, so we can get other persons to contribute. So please keep an eye on the time in making your contribution, and thank you for coming forward.
Okay, my dear opposition leader, the Florence Nightingale of Trinidad and Tobago, we are indeed very happy for this occasion. What is responsible for crime and criminals? Greed, corruption, envy, hatred, animosity, illiteracy, immorality, and the absence of God in our lives. My dear friends, criminals are not born, but created by society, the community, and the environment in which we live. Where in the world today can we find peace and love, my dear friends? No one is given the power or rights to destroy another human being. In the Old Testament time, in the time of Noah, when was few people trying to be honest and faithful, God came down from heaven and spoke to Noah and said, Noah, ask your people to repent of their sins. And God told Noah, I have regretted making human beings, my dear friends. And I still today, God is still regretting making human beings in our land because of our dishonesty. And we know the dishonesty of Adam and Eve. All religions have to come together in our land today. Christians, Hindus, Muslims, and others, and aim to increase humanity in our people. We are human beings, but we are missing humanity, my dear friends. The priests have to be models and lead their people into spiritual living. The priests have to attract dropouts and new followers, retract parishioners, and bring them back into the fold. They have to reduce their preaching and change their attitude. For sometimes these priests, all the priests I am talking about, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, they repeat, and the youths do not like to attend churches or mandirs and mosques because of the same sermon is being repeated over and over again. So my dear brothers and sisters, we have to teach simple morality in our church, in our community, in our schools. We have to emphasize the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. We have to emphasize human values of truth, beauty, and goodness. We have to go back to the 10 Commandments. We have to teach our children to pray, my dear brothers and sisters. We have to emphasize the use of the IRO, and they have to become a little more vigilant. And I think some of them are spiritually asleep. We have to wake them up in this country. There is an absence of God in the home, in the community, in schools, in the offices. We have to teach children and even adults how to pray. Parents, brothers and sisters, do we teach our children to pray? Or we just pray with them? We have to pray at least 3 times a day, my friends. The priests must collectively demand a change in the school's curriculum, review moral education, and must present subjects. Teachers must have class, my dear friends. We have many teachers don't have class, and the only time you'll find them have class is on mountain, my dear friends. So ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a very terrible time. The whole world is in a crisis. We are in the last days. The world is on the verge of being crushed. Therefore, we have to repent and be transformed and be transformed. As one religious leader says, start the day with love, fill the day with love, and end the day with love. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Coordinator, Madam Political Leader, Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. As a means of introduction, my name is Leonard Bradshaw. I live in Point Fortin. That's significant, and you'll understand why in a while. Madam Political Leader, you have been trying to get the government to do this mass meeting and sharing of minds and asking people to express themselves on crime. Forget it. It will never happen. And you have to understand why. Most of the crimes in Trinidad are committed, and I'm going to quote your leader, OWTU, Mr. Roger, and he was correct when he said, most of the crimes that affect us these days are committed by young, black, Afro-Trinidadians. It's sad, but it's true. Now, how does that relate to the government and crime symposiums? They cannot have a crime symposium out of which will come recommendations on how to deal with crime. The days are past when we could use kid gloves and tell the criminals that don't do this, bring in your weapons. They ain't going to do that. The methods that are going to be employed to deal with crime have to be multifaceted. But among them, you've got to be draconian on some of the hardened criminals. If you do that, you will be stepping on the corns of a lot of the political supporters of the PNM. And make no mistake, the PNM is focused, and they do it fairly well, on winning elections. They don't care about the aftermath of winning elections. They don't care about what happens to the country. What they do happens along the way. The IMF will tell them you've got to increase electricity rates. They will do it even in an election year, not because they had planned it, but because it has come upon them as a responsibility. When it comes to crime, they're not going to bother to do anything. But Madam Political Leader, you are interested in solutions, and the solution is obvious. You have to change the government. But if we had to change the government, let me give you a little story. Point Fortin is not in the headlines every day in terms of murders and that sort of stuff. And we are thankful, but I'm scared. I'm scared because the cancer is spreading throughout the whole nation. A few nights ago, my dog started barking. I still don't know what it was barking at. I looked out the window, peeping behind the curtain, just in case somebody was out there. And I was dead scared because I don't even have a slingshot to protect myself. And I am a safe, upstanding citizen of this country. I spent 5 years as a deputy, as a vice president of the Senate. I thought I would qualify for a firearm to protect myself. Fact of the matter is, I applied. Nothing has been done. I went back to the station, I said, what about my application? Boss, I don't know nothing about that now. And there lies the matter. I support your proposal for stand your ground legislation. And if you want to know why I mentioned that I live in Point Fortin, Point Fortin is adjacent to Lubbury. Point Fortin and Lubbury are PNM constituencies. The PNM is strong there. In every other part of Trinidad and Tobago where the PNM is strong, crime is prevalent. So I'm scared. It's a reality we have to deal with. So, Madam Political Leader, I take note of the fact that we have a limited amount of time for this presentation. But I think that we have to start preparing for the general election of 2025. Right? And while crime is going to be a major campaign issue, there are other issues that we have to deal with, such as constitution reform, such as education, such as agriculture, such as foreign relations, and it goes on and on and on. We cannot wait until we win the election to start saying, Rudal, you head a committee, or Saddam, you head a committee. We've got to start doing it now. We have no option if we want to save this country, but to start working now. Thank you.
Yes. All right, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Now, I've been told that time is very limited, so I'm going to be brief here tonight. First and foremost, I want to thank the team here for their contributions. I would have reached late, but I was filled in. And from what I heard, all the contributions were very enlightening. I want to thank the political leader of the UNC. Let's all give her a round of applause. And you know why we need to do that? Because of what we have here. There's an attempt now to divide the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, to divide us among many issues, but we must not be divided. We could only win if we come together and we tackle this thing head on. And let us not underestimate the enemy that we face. Right? Let us not underestimate. So, we're in a crime symposium, and I'm here with a long line behind me. I'm seeing Vanessa, right? And I want to focus on three things. One, there's an erosion in family, and not much people are focusing on that as a cause of crime. There's a significant erosion on family, and if you look at children that grow up in broken homes, the percentage and chance of them going into crime is a lot higher. We have to look at the statistics, and we have to cover that gap. While we are already in a situation where the society has deteriorated, we have to prevent it from further deterioration. So a lot of effort has to be put back on family. Two, we need the ability to defend ourselves. It cannot be that we are living in our homes, and our homes are prisons. The prisoners are running free, and the law-abiding citizens are in jail. That needs to be returned. 3, there's a serious cost of living issue in this country. And with every passing year, it is becoming harder and harder for persons to survive on a daily basis. While there are people out there who will tell you there's work galore, and people can go out there and find work. When you find work, it's paying you $20 an hour. That buying a bread, and it can't even buy a tin of Vienna sausages for 1 hour. As a result, we have a lot of families that are forced to work 2 jobs and 3 jobs and ignore the livelihood of their children and allow their children to be raised by the gangs and the social media and all of these things. These problems, while we ignore it, it becomes worse and worse. We see it as small things, but it grows and balloons into bigger things. But what is probably the greatest cause of crime, in my opinion, is the perceived injustice in the country. It is when somebody believes that as a law-abiding citizen, I am being abused and taken advantage of for whatever the reason may be, and I have no recourse. So for example, an issue very close to our heart is the issue of these divers, the 4 divers that would have lost their lives and the one that would have survived. It has taken 2 years to complete a commission of inquiry, 2 years. And the commission of inquiry would have made recommendations to compensate the family members. But you will tell me that after spending over $20 million on a commission of inquiry, you're still hesitating when it comes to compensation. So me as a person going to work, knowing this, and knowing I am going into a risky environment, have to now put my life on the line. And when something happens to me, I know that my family will be catching the tail for years to come. That is gross injustice. And it doesn't only pervade there, because the attitude of the people on top is an attitude of them talking down to you. But we have to remember that we put them there to represent us. This is not a father talking to a child. This is a leader that has been put there to govern a country for the betterment of Trinidad and Tobago and the citizens here. So when you tell me you see an incident in Guyana, and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago will get up and say, yes, if Guyana needs help, we are willing to assist Guyana. But your citizens right here crying for help. The citizens right here crying for justice. And we're not hearing anything from you. You need to go. Injustice needs to be cut. We need to fix the problem from the top and deal with all other issues. All right, so again, my time is up. On Thursday, everyone, we haven't heard anything regarding compensation for the family members. And as a result, we are asking all MPs, local government, ministers, senators, as much people as possible, civil society groups, come out and stand up for the right thing. It is time that we show them that we want them to do the right thing. The right thing is the right thing. Compensate the family members, let them get some justice, and start to turn the wheel around in this country. All right, so that's it there for me. Thank you, guys.
Good night, everyone. My name is Vanessa Kusi. I am the wife of Rishi Ryan Nagasa, the late. I don't like to say late, but it's the late Rishi Ryan Nagasa. I'm standing here before you, still waiting for justice for my husband. The Paria tragedy. Next month will be 2 years since this accident happened and we are still waiting for justice. I stand together with the 4 other families as we want justice for the 4 deceased divers and the lone survivor. February 25th, when this accident happened at Paria, neither LMCS or Paria officials had called me. I got the news from a fisherman out at sea. When this news reached my home, the echoes of my screams were heard throughout my street. My house was filled in minutes. Myself and my family went to Paria. First, we saw the securities. We asked them if there were accidents that happened there, about maybe 3:30 or so, and they said no, there's no accident they know about. Now this there starts with a lie. A few minutes after, I saw an ambulance coming out from Paria. My uncle stopped him, the driver, and he asked about the incident that took place inside Paria and if the men are still in the pipeline. They told them they do not know because Paria officials are keeping everything very secretly, and they just went there and they said, "Ma'am, I would like you to pray and pray a lot." I fell on my knees, begging God for this not to be real. For a state-owned company, you all didn't have the decency to call the immediate wives to let them know this big tragedy happened in our country, and you never had a small little piece of, a heart to call the families of the deceased divers and let them know what is taking place. I have no respect for you all. The families of the 5 divers waited at the car park for news, day and night. Paria gave us nothing and was doing nothing to save these men. They, the Paria officials, never called any of the families, and we are still waiting for justice. Paria, you all are murderers, and we want this whole board to be fired because you cooperate with the deaths of our men. My home is not the same without our breadwinners taken away from us. The government called for the commission of inquiry. This had taken almost 16 million. What the families got? Nothing. They are laughing at us, saying we are weak, but I want them to know I'm going to fight for justice till the end. To the Prime Minister, the same way you came the next day and said our husbands are dead, and you tell the whole world our husbands, they are dead, and they were still alive days after. You need to come out the same way and meet and greet the family. We want justice. We want you and the Paria officials to come out and have meetings with us. As of this week, we are going to march in front of Paria as every day goes by, every Thursday as we meet. In other countries, Coast Guard fight to save lives. In our country, they pointed guns for the divers who were willing to save these men. I was there, and I can tell you, I am not lying. I was there from the beginning, and I can tell you all the people who were involved in this. And we need them for the government to remove the officials from Paria. And we want quick response. The report Mr. Lynch had given us, he said it's not an act of God. And I think we are all clever and we know exactly what it means. They are all murderers. He clearly says Paria officials had left these men to die. And I end here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jackman from the OWTU Pointe-a-Pierre branch has asked me to inform you that the Thursday's procession will be in front of Paria from 8 a.m. So it's in front of Paria, which is the roundabout in Pointe-a-Pierre, in front of Paria from 8 a.m.
Good night, Honorable Leader. All other protocols observed. My name is O'Neill Jones, and I am from a humble village of Dow Village, South Doropuch, where it's mostly farming. And lo and behold, just before the Christmas, our farmers went in the field to water their crops. And 4 of their pumps, their water pumps, had gone. One guy lost 2, and the other 2 farmers lost 1 each. Up till this day, no one is arrested. No one was arrested. No pumps were discovered. You know what these fellas had to do? Go the next day in the store and buy new pumps, install them, because they had crops on the ground that need watering. More so, down by the bay, where the fishermen are. One morning, them fellas get up to go and fish, and there were no boats. They were stolen. What I really want to say here today is we have a frightened, frustrated nation leading up to today. From 2015 coming up today, because when you look around, you see fuel going up, everything on the rise except salaries and jobs. Remember the day when the fella say, if you're going in your fridge, and the man shut down petrol, and there was a lot of people went home. Contractors that worked in the refinery went home. And it trickled down. Because in those days I used to do sales on a truck. And where I used to sell, people weren't buying anymore to operate their restaurant and their food business, because there were no petrol train workers to buy. They went home. This is why we are today. It didn't happen yesterday. The crime situation in this country didn't happen yesterday. It was coming down the road. Because when you have people at the top that don't really care, because I believe in this country today, all these systems has failed. The health system has failed. The protective system has failed. You go anywhere for service, all the government service in this country has failed us. The school, we don't talk about violence. I was amazed to see these videos, school violence. What are we coming to? Sometimes you go on social media, 3 men gone down, so are we in the wild, wild west? Are we there? Lady, let me tell you something. You be the Moses and lead this country out of bondage. We are in bondage, because if you're afraid to come out of your house, we are in bondage. And let me tell you something. When your children leave in your house to go to work, to go to school, you pray for them. Ask God to protect them. Because I believe that is the only protection we have today from the Father above. There's none other.
Right? And before I close, I would like to say something to you all. Listen carefully. If you hire somebody to do a job in your home and they're wasting your material and not doing the job, what would we do? Whenever the day is called, people, I'm appealing to you, do not stay in your house. Because we are done sorry already of what is happening today. Let us not be more sorry. Let us come out and get rid of these people that govern us today. Because let me tell you something, them fellas don't have a clue, you know. All them know is to buffer people. The day you oppose them, they buff you up. Right? I see, I just observe, I just watch, I just follow the politics. I know what is happening. Oh, I didn't see the red light. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had more time. Really. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Yeah, just watch the time.
Good night to each and everyone. Good night to a distinguished political leader, the leader of the opposition, Ms. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, and the head table. All protocols observed tonight. Tonight I am here as a concerned citizen on this crime situation, and I'm here to present solutions that can bring some kind of result to this crime situation that we are presently facing. Now we have just over 5,000 TTTS police officers, and there is over 25,000 plus precepted security officers that can lend assistance to the police service in bringing this crime situation to some kind of control. The police commissioner have indirect and direct authority over all precepted officers. Let me enlighten you all about a little thing about, once you are precepted, you have the same amount of powers and authority vested in a police officer under the rank of a corporal. And in cases of national disaster, the commissioner has that authority to call upon every precepted officer to do civic duty on behalf of the country. But what we have right now is a bunch of people heading the departments that is not certain about what they want to do and how to go about it. What we need right now is real rugged decision. We need to have stiff decisions by those in authority. What we need right now, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to implement this proposal that I'm going to put forward. We need to have a state of emergency, at least for at least 3 days, where the police commissioner could call upon these state police precepted officers to come and assist and work alongside the police service to bring some kind of control over the state. And I am also further in proposing, just as America have homeland security, that we develop a national guard service that includes all the different arms of the national security and all the interested parties. We have the resources. No longer should I hear the Minister of National Security or the police commissioner saying we have a man shortage power in the service. Because we have the resources, but we are not utilizing it and harnessing it in the right way. We need to bring and make decisions that will benefit the country as a whole, not ourselves. The government right now don't want to call a state of emergency because they want to look good, that when they come out of office, that they did not have to call a state of emergency. While people is dying, we need to have these hard decisions being taken by those in authority right now, not later, right now. And so to have a forum like this, I hope that each and everyone will embrace it, and those of you who have knowledge in the security industry, come out and speak out. bring solutions to the table that could be implemented to bring some kind of temporary solution to the crime fighting. We have people in our country that has great knowledge in the security. I am a former chairperson of the crime committee of the Greater San Fernando Chamber of Commerce. I had to relinquish that due to illness, but that did not stop me from having a commitment towards fighting crime and developing solutions. Now I see I am out of time, but I have over 21 recommendations that I would like to put forward. Anyone interested, feel free to talk with me through the MP for Tabakit, Ms. Anita Haynes. I am from the Tabakit area. So, good night to each and everyone. I hope that I would have brought some kind of stability and hope with my proposals. And if introduced under the proper legislation, you see, the government is failing to take stiff decisions. And this is what is required right now by those in authority. We need people with balls, as they will say. People to come forward and say, this is what has to be done, and this is what is going to be done. Not sit back and say, I listen to most of these broadcasts by the Commissioner of Police and others. They say, they are saying that most of the crime is drug-related and gang-related. And it's like, that is not important. My time is up now, so I have to go. But anytime that you all need good proposal, I have it available.
Thank you so much. Just watch your time, all right? Yeah.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, political leader, and all at tables, all protocols observed. I'm going to be straightforward. In a country of a population of 1.4 million, criminals, let me say 200,000, how would they held them in charge and how we frightened? We have the resources, we have the technology. That says something about the policing and how they direct their resources towards solving crime. If they continue to go the direction that they are going in, we will continue to have criminal activities. I cannot understand how a small population in our country have us living in fear. We need the right type of leadership in all different positions in order to make this thing work. Mr. Abraham, a few weeks ago, made statements about the police department. He came under heavy attack. How much of you all follow that? I take the unfortunate pleasure listening to every radio station. And when them PNM people talking shit and all. Sorry. When them PNM people talking and all. You understand what I'm saying? But we have to realize that we here are also part of the problem. We do not move with confidence when we talk about the negative stupidness that we hear with Prime Minister, ministers from the PNM, and them talking when they come to talk about crime. We know it, we know the problems, but nobody wants to take the action to get it done, and we need leadership that could solve the problems. These forums here does not really do much. It just brings up a public face a little bit. But within ourselves, we have to know what we are doing. We have a serious problem in the police department. And I am not afraid to say, when you go to the police station and you make your report, that's it. Nothing happens after that. Mr. Abraham, things change a lot. Nothing's happening after that. So we come out here and we say we need to work with the police. It don't work. We need a leadership to lead the police department, lead the country, lead everything, and take the right direction to make things happen in Trinidad and Tobago. Let me say this also. The United National Congress, with the laws that we had, was bringing down crime. We are aware of that. The statistics show it. Management with the PNM has shown that it is not working. They have the laws, they just don't have the right attitude to make it happen, or the will. The drug industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. How are you going and tell people, hey, get away from drugs? You cannot just do it with talk. People talk about taking the root problem. Currently, we have a major problem. We have to bypass the root problem, go for it and deal with it at the throat, and then work at the root problem. If we continue doing it how we're doing it, we'll stay in the situation that we are in currently. And I'm sure every regular citizen knows and understands this fact. I'm not going to take up more than my 3 minutes, it doesn't turn yellow. But I guess you all could put together everything that I've said here and let us go out there and don't be afraid. We need just to know that we have the right people working with us, that when we work against the criminal elements, we will get it done. And we need the right leadership to get it done. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bruce. Thanks a lot.
We do it right here. Thank you all very much. All our presenters, please give them a round of applause as we thank them. And from those who came from the crowds, again, if you didn't get a chance to speak today, our team will take your numbers, we'll contact you. The gentleman from Tabaquite mentioned his MP, Anita Haynes. He says he has 21 recommendations as MP. Can you work with him? Get them in writing for us, please. And any of you would like to bring forward any further suggestions, comments, we are willing and able. Our doors are open, our ears are open, our hearts are open to listen to you, to try to get our country working again. I want to thank the OWTU, and the para issue has been raised, you know. And there's something that really troubles me, and I would like to ask the government whether it is true that following upon the Commission of Inquiry report on the para divers, that during the period before the report was released to the public, but after the Prime Minister received the report, and in that report, the report was very abrasive to a person by the name of Mr. Piper. The OWT people know him. And another one, Mr. Mushtaq. And the question is this, I've been told and I'm asking whether the government renewed their contracts for a further 2 years. How can you do that? It's like, who will guard the guards? If they were the ones that the report found were culpable in their behavior, then why did you renew their contracts secretly during the period before the report was made public? And when the report became public, it was clear that Mr. Piper was found to be liable in certain ways for his actions at that accident site, that tragedy site. So that's something I think the government must answer us. Why did you renew the contracts of these two people? And who renewed the contracts? Was it Newman George and the Paria Board? Was it the Cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago? Because the Cabinet had the report, you'll remember that. They got it since last year, but they delayed in laying the report and making it public. So I really would like answers to that question. It is a serious, serious question that if people have been culpable in terms of doing their jobs, I think one of our speakers here said tonight, you hire somebody to do a job and they can't do the job, what do? Fire them. We don't want to renew their contracts for 2 more years. The Commission of Inquiry found that the Paria was guilty of could be guilty of corporate manslaughter. What are they still doing sitting in those positions? Because they are the friends and the family of the Prime Minister and his government. I think they own townhouses together in Tobago, if I'm not mistaken. So the chairman, Newman George, and Prime Minister Rowley, and a few others, like a whole complex. What was it again? Remind me the name of it. That's right. Inez Gate. So a lot of the speakers, you've put your finger on the pulse of things, that a injustice to one, it's an injustice to every single person, all. So let us continue to work together. I thank you again for proceedings this evening. We'll keep you advised and informed of the next proceedings. And I want to tell the Prime Minister, who is busy, as I told you, in Washington, that if you don't like what people are saying about you, the best thing you can do is to get out of here tomorrow morning. Just get out. Get out. You cannot buff people and tell them shut up because you have a different opinion. And you and Hines seem more concerned about Gary Griffith's underwear. But that's what they came on the platform to speak about. Instead of telling us about plans and solutions for crime, you're buffing Mr. Johnny, you're talking about somebody Well, his name is Gary, but you're talking about his underwear, whatever it may be. I'm sure he looks fine, but who cares? What we care about is the epidemic of crime in our country. So we will continue to speak. Go home safe, enjoy your carnival season, keep safe. God bless you all, and I thank you very much.